agree with it, and that I love that because it shows that, you know, the criminal element, right, has slowly just wore us down.
Mm-hmm.
It literally wore us down. You can go where black people actually were trying to be active agents in their community to fight against crime. They didn't want it around their kids, and you know what I mean? Like we ain't like that shit either. That's what I'm saying. The whole thing was, yo, black people were saying, yo, black on black crime is crazy. Meaning we come from a period, right? These older people were saying, I come from a period where my parents told us how white people was violent and victimizing their parents, right? And each generation tried to move into situations that negated white racism that was violent towards them, right? And now we're in a situation where we are away from the white violence, and now the biggest perpetrators, violence and criminality amongst our people is ourselves. That was a problem for black people in coming from previous generations.
I don't want to say this, but I hear what you're saying. You're saying that
they looked at that like, man,
no,
if my parents had to worry about, hold on, let me say this. If my parents had to worry about their parents getting lynched in 1920, right, by a white man, you feel me? I took that with me, right? Like I have that fear in me. Now my grandkids live in a situation where my fear of white crime is gone, and now we gotta fear ourselves. That is crazy. That was crazy for them. So they structured black on black crime in that loving element. That how we doing? White people used to do this to us, right? That was our. But now we doing this shit to ourselves for no good fucking reason. Like, and we was poured in. If poverty make you, nigga, I come from dirt poor. You feel me? Fucking sharecropping. Poverty ain't make me. What the fuck? But now this poverty in this situation, nah, bro. Black people wasn't trying to hear that shit back. You know what I mean? When they was teaching me, like, y'all some new black folk.
Sorry about that, brothers. I had to step away real quick. I'm back now. So go ahead.
Yeah, what you added to it is that the Great Migration was a result of white people who committed less crime than these black people.
What happens to these?
The Great Migration, where white folks, where black folks run from the South, is a result of suffering from white people. Yet still,
exactly.
Now, what is happening is that black people is faced with more injustices than white people. But where they're going to run to? There's no way to run to. There's no way to run to. I understand what you're saying. And that's the argument that is going to, we can't win. We can't win.
There's a missing historical analysis that's important with this, and I don't have enough time to go into details with it. But to be fair, Chef, the direct lineage that you're connecting in terms of social history isn't fair to the black folks that was already experienced white on black violence within the North and within the Midwest. From European immigrants coming here in the early 20th century.
I'm not excluding it. You can shed light on that. I'm not excluding it. Go ahead.
Okay, got you. Because when we look at a lot of the Germans, a lot of the Irish resettlement, some of the early Jews, up here in Minnesota, particularly the Norwegians and Scandinavians, these white folks was violently harsh and hostile against black migration coming up here to the Midwest and the North. And so that white on black violence was not only a visceral thing, but those black folks coming up from those rural and southern areas also had to deal with the perpetuated violence of what they saw in white folks here. Now, with that prevailing piece, yeah, there was a component, and there's a book that I'm going to reference with that. It's called Sweet Liberties. It's like Sweet Liberties, the civil rights movement in the North. I'll get the exact title for you. But he breaks down these different fronts and fights in New York and Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Chicago, Indiana. And he talks about the interactions between not only the violent arm of white antagonism against black bodies of those migrating north, but he also talks about the array of systemic structures of what black families from Alabama and Mississippi experienced as they settled in Chicago and settled in Gary, Indiana, settled in Minneapolis and St. Paul, and settled in Milwaukee. And they ran up, but they didn't come here and get settled in and then just kind of like, oh, I got this job and I'm ready to go and my family is doing well. The vast majority, not all, because we're never talking about the full picture. The vast majority of black folks had to deal with these barriers of being able to participate in equitable paying jobs, being able to get residential housing, to be able to get supplanted in fair schooling and education opportunities for their children, to be able to qualify for services, because counties work with the state to bar as much as they can from these black immigrants coming up here to be able to resettle themselves. And so they created, eventually over time, they engineer pathways where these black families can be incorporated into the fabric of these northern and midwestern cities economically, but it was met with so much racial centralization to the white immigrants that was coming here from Europe. And we're talking about between 1900 and the 1950s. And so there was, even in amongst that, you dealing with a whole bunch of European groups that didn't like each other either. And so the violence that was primarily perpetuated in these northern and midwestern cities was white folks beating up white folks. And they took a lot of their economic and social transgressions out on the black residents that were just starting to get populated and coagulated here in these subjugated cities. And so not only did white folks have to deal with restrictions from society and the county and all of these different municipals restricting them and marginalizing them to the outskirts of participation, they had to deal with the subjective poverty that existed because of that. And they found familial ways to build resourcefulness amongst our community to be able to counteract that. But they also had to deal with the violence that was coming from these immigrant groups who was looking at the black worker as a threat to their livelihood and sustainability. And so at a certain point, when you start seeing in the societies in these various different cities engineer different mobilities for white folks to not only participate, but get some of these factory jobs and create mobilization for them to move to the outskirts of suburbs, it left many of a desert hole of black folks in these urban cities as we begin to expand and swell up the rankings of these Midwestern and Northern cities. And from that point on, you start seeing the entropy. Jawanza Kunjufu calls it entropy, where the easiest target of people who's facing poverty and economic deprivation is to turn on each other in order to survive. And I think that analysis is critically important when we're looking at what you're saying and making that there's a connection. Sometimes it's subtle and sometimes it's hard to see it, but there's a connection between how some of those generations who experienced sharecropping and how they came up here and had to reacclimate themselves, and they experienced a different form of racism, which some of them, if you look at that CBS special that was posted, I want to say 2 months ago, I'll try to see if I can find it again. You had black families in Chicago, had black families in Des Moines, Iowa, who was like, if I'd known, this literally a father said this, sitting next to his wife and all the kids on him. He said, if I would have known that I was going to experience this much prejudice coming to up here to the north, I would have stayed down in Mississippi where I was from. I think he was from Arkansas, but he said I would stay where I was from. And I think that's because they, and I'll land here, Black folks believed that the migration north was going to supply them with equal participation, opportunities, equitable jobs, all of these other pieces. And they found out that this form of racism just looks differently. I'll end there.
In the term black on black crime, though I can agree with the term as black folks are having these discussions internally. But once you take it to a national stage, I don't think the term is productive in that sense.
No, it's not.
Because
It's not.
it begins to isolate violent crime within a particular group of people.
That's
And what
right.
it does is it doesn't allow for the country to mobilize in a way to properly address it, because the crime bill and incarceration, that's really a short-term fix.
But it was supported by black people out of frustration. Right? I agree with that.
I agree, and it was a mistake, because you have to really address the pathology behind what's driving the crime.
Right.
So
This is the piece that I was trying to offer last night, though, because the framework of viewing Black folks from this entropy, this pathological turmoil that's happening in the cities, it started much earlier than the term that became later on to describe it. It started much earlier. The thinking behind that, the not only the theory, just the belief system that Black folks moving into these cities is going to produce all these crimes, and that there's going to be this inherent decay and erosion of natural good citizenship in these cities didn't start from us. The pathology is looking at criminality and Black folks' propensity to be criminals in these spaces. It didn't start from us. We just end up popularizing the term. That's why I posted that piece from Frederick Hoffman in the Discord yesterday, because he wrote that in 1896 at a time where Black folks was just getting their foot in some of these northern cities. Most of them started getting that on that freeway, and say freeway metaphorically, but they start really moving into these other spaces in these northern and midwestern areas and some in the west, and trying to reestablish themselves. And those white architectures and theorists at the time was trying to warn these city officials through policy and through research and saying statistically, this is going to create a criminality amongst your element where they're going to turn on each other and create, chaos in your cities. It takes a little bit of reading, but read that piece on Frederick Hoffman, because when you look at a lot of people today who reference, like Fair just said, the problem with using Black on Black as a moniker to describe things, they point to that piece. They say he started this perpetual thinking around this and kind of this framing of this. And you didn't see it into the 50s and the 60s, where you start seeing white newscasters and certain journalists refer to the complications in our community as Black on Black criminality, this propensity towards it. And even then, it wasn't statistically sound, but it was being utilized in various different pieces. You saw Black folks internalize the reality on this by the time 1973 Essence and Ebony promoted that piece that you posted. By then, it became part of our lexicon, borrowed from existing thought and research and framing that existed decades before that. That's what I was trying to elevate with those posts. That's not from us. We use it as a way to be able to describe what we were seeing happen in our community. But it's one thing to be able to use it as a descriptor and talk about it as a concept, but it's another thing to believe that this exists entirely on its own by itself, and it has nothing to do with the marginalization from infrastructures around us. And that's the unique difference between the concept and the theory and the framing behind what we're describing. And I'll land there because I feel like I'm kind of going in circles now.
No, I like that that you brought up. I wasn't trying to restrict it to just southern Black plantations and sharecropping and the violence of the Ku Klux Klan. You know what I mean? So I'm glad you helped my argument. you know, that black people throughout the whole country felt as though there was white violence, you know, towards them. No matter where they was at, whether they was in the deep south or the north, there was white aggression. We felt as though there was white violence and aggression towards us. So I'm glad you pointed out that it was, you know, we felt that countrywide. But, and I appreciate that because that was my point. You know what I mean? But I went to the most visceral and harshest of our conceptualization, historical conceptualization of that. I always go to an extreme case so my point don't be missed. So we can all be on the same what's the name? But so if black people, and that's the point, if black people felt this way, you know, by the time it got to our generation, when black on black crime was actually talked about with black kids, right? By black people, right? Whether it was, you know, ministers, counselors, people in your community, there was a conversation about it amongst black people, and we didn't like it, and we seen that shit as a problem. And we seen it as a problem that was unique among black people. Remember, violence, I agree with y'all, violence is a local thing, right? Crime is a local endeavor. So if you go to a white community, the people that's committing the crimes in the white community is the white people. You go in the Mexican community, the people that's committing the crimes in the Mexican community is Mexicans, so forth and so on. So y'all can miss me with that little tidbit to try to school me on violence or crime as a local thing. Everybody know that. You're gonna miss the point if you right now. But when you talk about, you know, increased violence, right, with this gang warfare that these black people was trying to warn black kids to stay away from, right? The shit that kept whole communities in constant fear, gang warfare. You dig what I'm saying? Motherfuckers having shootouts in the middle of the street, pulling up, just killing each other. Like it seemed, it was crazy for older black people. Then the drug epidemic, the violence that came with the drug dealers, and all older black people said, "This is madness. We can't act like that's the same as the criminal shit that happened in middle class white America." What we gonna sit here and lie to each other? We gonna lie to each other right in our faces and act like the Bloods and the Crips and the Power and the insipid drug wars in our community is a normal thing that all of America goes through? No, it's not. That shit is largely black America, and it's a problem, and black people call that shit black. Everybody was talking about it in the black community. I'm not crazy. Everybody said that shit was a problem. I remember Teen Summit. I remember everything. They used to come to our schools and talk about it, try to, what are we sitting here? Are we acting like this? Oh, man.
Wait, Chef, I'm confused. What are you hearing from
I'm
people?
I'm hearing that it's that framing it that way, or black people actually trying to address it, even calling it black on black crime. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it was. I don't know no other way. I'm trying to. It's not just crime. It's something that's going on with black people that is doing this shit, like the gang warfare, the incipient drug wars in our community. That was something largely that we were dealing with. And I'm trying, if it wasn't black, what was it? What is it? Because it's still going on. Y'all saying that you can't frame it as black on black crime. I'm trying to figure out then, what is it? How was black people in the 80s and 90s wrong for viewing it that way or went down the wrong path? What was it? Like, what was it? What is it? If it ain't
Yo,
that.
Chef. Yo, Chef, can I add something on this? Because when I hear that phrase, right, when I first heard the phrase, right, what it made me think of that there was this unified group called Black people, and that we shouldn't be doing crime against each other, especially violent crime. So that made me give people passes. They shouldn't have got a pass. Because I thought about their mother, their father, the impact of doing something like them. When before I would have did something like them. You understand me? I see it like this because I didn't want to be in the statistics of black on black crime. You understand me? I see it. So when I heard the phrase, I know how the media manipulated it and this and that, but I never looked at it that way. I looked at it the way you looked at it. You understand? Because back in the day, they didn't call it white on white crime. They called it the Jews versus the Italians, the Polish, because they didn't see themselves as this white conglomerate that we do. You understand? So they had their little division and this and that. But when they said black crime, black on black crime, then that made me think that, yo, wait a minute, there's like all black people I shouldn't be hurting any type of black person if I can avoid it. If I have to defend myself, something different. But
Yeah,
I can't go out with
I see what
aggression
you're saying.
to do something against any type of black person because I don't want a statistic of black on black crime.
Yeah, but listen to what you said. You said Jews against Italians, and think about that. That's not our thing. Now, if you were saying, if it call that white on white crime, you know what I mean, that these white people seeing themselves as different from each other, I would say you're absolutely right. But that's not the case when it comes to what we call black on black crime. If it was Methodist against the Baptist, you know what I mean, then I can say, yeah, I can see how they're dividing each other. But black on black crime does not follow that, right? These black
Yeah,
people,
that's what I was saying, Chef. Is that it
that's
meant
what
a
I'm
unity
saying.
in me.
Yeah, we are more of a monolith in that aspect than what those different groups of white people are. You dig what I'm saying? So when we were actually addressed, we understood that no, we are more of a monolith than that. That shit don't exist. We don't divide our black people up into different group as wise Methodists and Baptists. So now we created Bloods and Crips out of the same people in the same fucking neighborhoods. We did that shit. You feel me? This drug group decided to be over here. They could all go to the same church. They could have played on the same basketball team. They decided to do that. That's a problem. And black people saying black on black crime came out of love. That's a love thing. Like, what are we doing to ourselves? Like, y'all didn't turn that into black people don't like each other or trying to do what white people was. I'm never making that argument. I'm never making an argument to support white supremacy when I talk about black on black crime the same way in the 80s and 90s when it was presented to me by black people who was trying to help us. They never presented it as a media-driven thing to down black people. It came from love. What are we doing to ourselves? All this shit white people did to us, and now we gonna sit here and just murder each other for nothing, for stupidity? That's where that shit came from.
Chef, I think some of this also depends on where you at. And what type of conversations we've been, like me and you the same age, roughly the same age.
Right.
And so we grew up hearing people talk about black on black violence, black on black crime. And it wasn't until later where I started to understand that there's a whole socio-political reality to this thing and how it's a misnomer to call it that. But all the way into my high school years and early college years, I argued and talked about the necessity for us to address black on black crime because I thought, it's real. The phenomenon itself on how these things manifest into criminality and violence and inequality in our community. That's a real thing. The origins and the stems or how it's created, that's where it forces us to analyze this thing beyond black on black. So we can shift away from the question of what's wrong with us to, like we talked about the other week, what happened to us. And depending on where we're at, here in Minnesota, the approach that I've seen in different programs, different organizations like the Way, Hospitality House, the Y, and the various different community centers here, they understood that the solution that we're going to put on the table is twofold. For one, we're going to address the mentality and the young brothers and sisters that's perpetuating this within our community. We knew that there's a conversation that Black folks had to have amongst us. The second fold is that they address the systemic barriers that they believe was causing some of this, whether it was gang violence, drug dealing, the drug epidemic, the domestic violence, all of these components that got labeled under that. They said, how do we address it from an infrastructural piece? And so the solutions they put on the table was like, we need to make sure that Black folks have access to mental health services. Boom. They said we need to make sure that Black folks have access to equitable education opportunities. Boom. They said that we need to make sure that Black folks have access to equitable jobs and training programs to get them into employable jobs that provide livable wages. Boom. The solutions that they put on the table wasn't centered on something's wrong with us. The solutions they put on the table had a wide range of like, how do we address the complications we have amongst us, or how do we also deal with those systemic barriers that's contributing to that piece? So whether we want to harp on the idea that Black on Black violence is like a real phenomenon that comes from some inherent neurological fucked up reality of who Black folks is, the solutions that I've seen here, particularly, and I'm speaking locally, that probably don't apply to Baltimore or New Jersey or Florida or Georgia. It doesn't apply to all those other spaces, but there may be some common thread. The solutions that I've seen put on the table to address this thing that we call Black on Black was multifold, that dealt with dealing with our own complications and dealing with those systemic barriers, because that led me to believe that the leaders, the think tanks, the people who understood Black on Black violence did not just believe it was something inherently wrong with us. They automatically knew, like, no, this thing is much bigger than us, and we have to deal with those solutions internally with this conversation and meet with legislators and policymakers to address it from an external position. So I'll end there.
My question, Majasi, question. If you're saying that they knew better, right? But Black people supported it. Black people weren't forward thinking when they support many other solutions and the over-policing solution and the long sentencing they have. Is what Black people didn't realize that the communities were being decimated from the inside, like a social program, like a drug program. Why didn't they ask for that instead of asking for over-policing? That's the question I'm asking. Why didn't they ask for social program?
Yeah, they knew that they knew that Black on Black violence was a social ailment that had an internal component. They didn't, and of course, that deals with Black folks' mistrust with the law enforcement, period. But you in Minnesota, here's the thing. That's what I'm saying. I have to speak locally. Some of us did advocate for more police presence in the community. And so this is where it gets complex. Some of us did. I don't know how universal that was, but some of us did. And so we understood the dynamic around Black on Black violence, and we understood that there was a piece that we have to address with, fathers not so-called being present in the home and mothers and the single parent homes. We knew that there was, some psychological pieces we had to deal with that's helping to perpetuate this thing. But the solutions that I seen put on the table out of the Twin Cities also said that in that conversation that we were having in the 80s and the 90s, we knew that this was a social element. It's like, yes, we begin to use Black on Black violence and criminality a part of our lexicon that dates back to the 1970s. The same way that we took on the reality of, perpetuating this concept of the nigga. But that doesn't mean that the origins of it comes from us. The nigga isn't a creation that comes out of Africa. The nigga isn't a creation that black folks who were sold, the first one sold here, we decided, hey, we're going to invent this new identity called nigga, and we're going to perpetuate that. No, we understood that that comes out of a socio-political reality that was forced on us, that eventually we just picked up on it and it became our way of seeing ourselves in the world. The same way black on black violence is something that was framed and constructed beyond our community to describe and pathologize our community, that eventually, because of our scholastic relationship and related connections to journalism and media, we've adopted the term and use it as a descriptor to be able to explain the phenomenons that we're seeing in our community. That doesn't mean it started from us. We just used it. But when we look at the solutions, we realize, at least in Minnesota, the solutions tells me, like, we don't think that something's wrong with us. We think that we have
something is wrong with us, then, Majas. If we are attracted to the worst description of ourselves, something is wrong with us. That is what Chef is saying. If we're attracted to the worst of how people describe us, if we're attracted to being the nigger, and now consider ourselves en masse as niggers, or as see black on black crime, something is wrong with us. We can't have it both ways. We can't have it both ways.
That's a complex thing. It is. It is both ways.
Yeah.
It is both. There's some people who've been at the table helping to address this, where their solutions is like, black folks just got problems and we got to deal with it. And they've created some powerful mental health practices. They've created some powerful cultural programs. They've created some powerful partnerships with education structures here. But their framework is that, no, black folks got problems and we need to face it and deal with it. And here's a solution to put on the table. And that's as far as they go with it. And we have to acknowledge that, accept that, embrace that, even if we think that their analysis is a little narrow-minded and very contemptuous towards black people, no historical reality. That's fine. What they put on the table in terms of solutions, hopefully it makes sense and it may work. But both of those exist, Stupies. Both of those exist in the same format.
No, people need to understand fundamentally what you're saying. Fundamentally, what you're saying is that, what they're saying is that we're broken. As people, we're broken.
Yep.
Hey, but that's kind of what the message was in that video, Stupies, about the Ebony magazine, the Black on Black crime. That was part of the message when they were talking about when you know better, you do better. You know what I mean? So it's got a lot to do with they highlight in that video how black people did advocate for more policing in the neighborhood, and you know what I mean, and more kind of criminal justice type deal to deal with the drug dealers and the gang violence in the neighborhood. But I guess what he's saying in that video, the tactics that we used were not good tactics. So like going down that same road again by asking to be over policed, I think that's kind of a detriment that we should watch out for, and going forward and trying to mitigate some of the ailments in these black communities.
No, but my problem, Corey, is this, right? Is it in spite of us being over policed, the criminal element in our community is still striving. So what does that say about us as a people? That we recognize in mass that this over policing is affecting all of us, but yet still
it's selective. So in the video, Stupies, he talked about the selective over policing, right? So they over police you to give you all these infractions. right? To give you the traffic tickets and the whatever kind of like minor infractions that kind of plague the black community, right? But when it comes to like these murders and the drug dealers and shit, they don't seem to be able to solve those crimes. You know what I mean? So they only over police to flex the arm of revenue. Did you?
I'm taking $3,000. He just wants to get rid of it.
I told you to tell him 2G. You was gonna try to start him at 2,500.
I asked him, I said,
And we have failed to recognize that in the community. Is that what we're saying now? That let me use chef thinking. Are we that dumb as a people to not recognize what obstacles we're facing? Somebody's conversation give me some headaches. I can't know. Never got time now. It's a good thing some stop our baby so they won't get autistic.
What was the question again?
Yeah.
What was the question again?
It's the fact that we recognize that this over policing in our community is not set to benefit the community, but more to entrap us, to get us caught up. What are we doing about that as a people?
Right. So that's what I'm saying, CP. I had another conversation going, but that's what I was saying, CP. The over policing is not to solve those issues that you guys are talking about, the drug dealing and the violent crime, right? The shootouts and the murders and all of that, right? What the over policing is there for is it's there to flex the muscles of the armed revenue. You see what I'm saying? So basically, they're there to redistribute the wealth from the poor community to the top. That's basically what over policing does. Because even when you look in down there in Kentucky or wherever, you know what I'm saying? In those hollers, those people are over policed too. You know what I'm saying? And it's the flexing of the arm of revenue is what it is. You know what I mean? It's not to mitigate any serious crime, ailments, or to help the overdosing that's going on in those communities. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same with the black community, bro. Like they're there to give you the traffic ticket. They there, to serve a warrant. They there, when somebody stole something from the store. But this little boy got shot during some drive-by, and then we don't know who did it. It's a whodunit. You know what I'm saying? And that's why the criminality is able to thrive in the way that you ask that question to be. There must be something wrong with us because the criminal element is able to thrive. You know what I'm saying? And it's the criminal element is not the majority of the black community. It's a small percentage of the black community, and they're helped. They're assisted by the local authorities. So when they doing all the shooting and acting a fool and selling dope, the police ain't out there, right? But when your son is on his way back from school, he gets to stop and frisk. You see what I'm saying? And he get the joint found on him. You know what I mean? So they there for that, but they ain't there for all the other parts. So that's why I wanted y'all to watch that video, because he hits a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of broadens the conversation out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And plus they go over a lot of those articles and he was able to kind of take a timestamp from the early or the late 70s, early 80s. You know what I'm saying? When kind of that article was based on, and when that black on black crime was kind of prevalent, the term, I guess, was kind of prevalent in the black community or whatever. So yeah, that's all I wanted to bring.
The murders and the violent crimes are an excuse for the over policing. So if you reduce the murder and the violent crime, then you wouldn't have that excuse to over police these neighborhoods. Is it a horse and carrot situation?
Absolutely. That's why and this is why, again, they're assisted. Those criminals, those drug dealers and murderers in your neighborhood, they are assisted by the local authorities. The police help them to continue their criminality, whether we realize it or not, whether the police realize it, whether those gang members realize it or not. That's exactly what's going on. And if you want, I think again, I'm wearing Chevron's car on this, right? If you want them to put that bullshit out your neighborhood, you're gonna have to stand your motherfucking ass up. Go outside while them little young niggas are out there with their switches, right? And they Draco, you're gonna have to stand your ass up and go out there and tell them motherfuckers to get the fuck on. That's what you going. If y'all wanna stop that in y'all community, you got to stand your motherfucking ass up, nigga. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Yo,
and
man,
then the police come. The police come after that. Like,
Yeah.
but the community got to do their job.
Now I say,
Like not a rock is being sold outside of my house.
Exactly. You wouldn't have that.
Corey,
You wouldn't have it.
Corey.
Nope.
Corey,
Well, all of that equity that you have in your house, you're not letting your community go to shit. If you see some young dudes in your alley, you know what the fuck they doing. You gonna come out there and say something, and guess what? They gonna respect that shit. When I was young, you know what? It was always adults and men that said, yo, y'all better take that shit over there. And we did that shit. You feel me?
Yep.
Like, y'all ain't gonna be right here doing that shit. You feel me? Men would stand up and say that shit. And guess what? We moved. We ain't like him. We called him a coon. He a bitch ass nigga, but we got the fuck away from his property. Because we
told you to get you had the 38 in your back pocket when he told you to get your ass on down the street, didn't he?
Exactly.
You had the 38 in your back pocket. You
exactly.
Down the street. Go ahead. Tell him.
We knew what grown people to fucking play with. If they say, yo, don't sit on Miss Ann's steps. You feel me? Yo, listen, don't sit, take y'all ass somewhere else. We did it. We knew who property to be in front of. We knew who wouldn't play that shit. And just because you felt as though you could beat him physically, you know he's gonna call the police on you. You feel me? If he didn't whip your ass, or if he didn't go get his strap, then you're gonna have to deal with the police. He ain't gonna stop. He gonna protect his fucking property. You feel me? Like, you in a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, he all the way in the right. He all the way in the right. Yeah. You can't win that.
Right. You telling me black people don't, and Mujasi say I'm being anecdotal. That is not, this is the real life shit. Not statistics, not that's some old media shit. You feel, I'm talking about how people actually live, right? When I moved into the Jewish community, right? The black dudes would try to stand on the corner because we moved into them Jews would man, y'all back. No, y'all ain't standing right here. You feel me? Like, we know what come along with that. That don't look good. Look, we'll find y'all something to do, but we're not going to stand on fucking corners right here. You dig what I'm saying? We're not doing that. You know what I mean? Same way it was black people in black communities, black men who did the same thing. That's how you take control of your community. You feel me? You call the police. You know what I mean? You get involved. You talk. You just don't let the shit happen and then participate in it. You know somebody got killed. You know who killed them, and you don't say nothing. You don't say nothing.
I say that's the police your last resort, no Shepard. But yeah, if you have to go there, yeah, don't be afraid to call the police. But you should be able to stand up without the police, though. Like, you know what I'm saying? In your neighborhood, you ought to be able to stand up because the police are starting to bring trouble. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
They gonna wind up bringing trouble to you in the long run. So yeah, but I mean, like I said, don't ever be afraid to call the police.
Right.
Yeah.
Use
All
that
right.
as a
Let
last resort.
me say this. So Jeffrey is agreeing with Jabari then. Because a couple of years ago, Jabari in the conscious community.
He was and they joked Jabari. Jabari was supposed to call the fucking police. He was the listen, I'm not letting my community
400 times.
Man, this man got a $400,000. Oh, what? How much is them brownstones in fucking New York?
About $1 million, $2 million.
I mean, he posed a
Them $1 million home. Them $1 million home.
He posed to allow bullshit around that. He supposed to let the value of his equity drop because for some niggas that don't even bring value to that man, y'all niggas crazy. I'ma say it.
Yeah, but
y'all niggas crazy.
Hey, so you know they try to call Jabari a coon because
I know.
he had a professional. He had his interior design by a professional designer, and he was actually on the channel with that interior design channel.
Crazy.
They actually came in. He was actually on the interior design channel. Jabari.
Yeah.
They tried to call him a coon for that, bro. Wild shit, bro. Go ahead.
We retarded. I'ma just say it. All right.
So we're not winning none at all then. Based on what we're talking about. Based on the Jabari thing, because we're supporting the bullshit. Because the conscious community was saying, oh, Jabari's a snitch. He called the police 400 times. There's record of him calling the police 400 times to get these drug dealers.
After Jabari come out his house and say something to them about the loud music and everything disturbing his fucking peace, and they don't stop, Jabari ain't gonna get out there and fight with them niggas. He a fucking college professor and a priest. What he look like wrestling, rolling on the ground with some fucking fool? No, I didn't ask y'all nicely as a brother, right? As a brother to the community. Man, you're disturbing my wife. You're disturbing my peace. That music is too loud. I don't like y'all standing around hanging like this, right? You're decreasing the value of my fucking investment, my home. At the end of the day, so he supposed to sit there and just put up with that. Man, yeah, all right. Yeah, all right. we let stupid shit get in our way. You feel me? But he a real nigga if he just let them be.
I don't know too much about the scenario that y'all talking about in that with Jabari, but like there's some inferences that you're saying that we supposed to, like, who's saying that? Like, who are you responding to?
That's a sentiment in that community that you don't pose to call the police. You don't pose to. You dig what I'm saying? You pose to let
Jabari a coon for calling the
you pose
police.
to let kids be kids. You pose all this old silly shit.
Somebody said so. They said that in response to the brother calling the police.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes. After he asked them numerous times to cut that bullshit out in front of his house. Now he supposed to get out there and physically assault one of them.
Right.
He supposed to roll a taxpaying citizen, supposed to roll around on the ground with that's what I pay taxes for. I'm not injuring myself. Corey gotta go to work tomorrow. Fuck is he gonna injure himself for rolling around on the ground with you? You feel me? When he gotta be up 3 o'clock in the morning to go to work. Why would he do that?
That don't make no sense. Yeah.
It makes no sense.
And Jabari been going through this for years though. Like this ain't nothing. Like that's why I didn't hear the recent story, right? But I've been hearing about this for 5 years. That he been dealing with them niggas outside his house for 5 years. And believe me, I don't agree with none of Jabari's ideology. But as far as what he's saying here, what he's dealing with here, yeah, I agree 100%. You know what I'm saying? Like, he should have been calling the police on them niggas like 3 years ago.
Because I didn't ask your bitch ass. Yeah. If I didn't ask your bitch, and now you about, I laugh at people like that, right? That they the people that you laugh at because the brother gave you every fucking warning to stop. You feel me? Oh, that motherfucker, you know what I mean? College, but he a coon, he a clown. I don't know what terminology is in New York that you use to just disrespect another grown man, like when he's asking you to get off his fucking pride. It was a case in Baltimore. This young black dude brought a house, right? Not too far from me, where I grew up at on Shirley Avenue, right? And it's like a break in the row houses where you can cut through. It's a utility break, right? That they had where you could cut through the houses to get to the utilities and stuff, right?
I remember the story, but go ahead.
The young drug dealers were actually stashing drugs in that little cut, right? Where they had their little drug operation going on. So the young brother, he was a young brother. They was around his age. He was in his early to mid 20s, right? So his kids used to ride their big wheels in their bikes through that little patch and play running up and down the street. So he asked them nicely, look, can y'all not put y'all stuff in this slit, right? In this little walkway, because my kids play in between here sometimes, right? So they say yeah, because he came to them respectfully, right? But then after a few times, he got to keep saying that, right? Now, I'm not going to sit out here and fight with y'all. Now I'm going to call the police on y'all. They shot that brother, man. They killed that bro for calling the police. Like, so what do you do with that? Like y'all won't even allow me, and y'all want me to feel sympathy for these niggas? Y'all want me to say is the system? Well, how the system going to help that young brother that's doing the right thing? We take more, man.
You know why they shot him, Chef? Because his neighbors didn't back him up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. When you see your neighbor having a problem with them niggas out
and
the
y'all
street,
don't step out there and
you don't step out there with him,
mm-hmm.
then you only helping the problem. You're only helping the problem. And then the thing with the police do, right? This is why I said the police should be the last resort, right? You should go out there and you should pump some fear in them niggas' hearts, right? But the police, what they'll do is be like, yeah, it was Jimmy. He called the police on y'all.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He the one who keep calling on y'all. Y'all know that, right? So every time y'all in front of Jimmy's house, he gonna call the police. Like the police be telling these niggas, they used to tell us that. They used to tell us who called the police on us. Wild shit, bro. I'm just saying, the whole thing is wild, bro.
Let me see it, man. Let me come in at this.
I'm trying
Let
to
me see it, man. Let me see something. Yo, listen on. I want to know this, man. Do we have this like nostalgia or propensity for violence, right? Because those niggas out front of Jabari, us, are the same people that have missed the old Brooklyn when Brooklyn was violent and Brooklyn was dangerous. Like, and we have this now, like no, I mean for real, man. They don't remember when Brooklyn was safe. You understand what I say? They missed the hip hop era Brooklyn. You know, they missed the Biggie on the block and them something there. You understand? They missed. You understand? Because you hear them talk about it. Like, do we have some nostalgia for violent community? I really want to know that.
Reggie, can you give some clarity? I'm trying so hard not to participate in these conversations anymore. But I'm listening.
Bro, hold on, dude. Bro, do you live in Brooklyn?
You know
what problem do you live in Brooklyn?
Y'all don't know how y'all. I'm trying
you
to.
Don't live in Brooklyn.
Y'all about to talk about conversation. Just talk about one neighborhood when we're talking about a problem. We're talking about a problem. We ain't trying to talk about one neighborhood. We're talking about a problem amongst black people.
Hey,
that's the issue.
Reggie's
I
actually.
know that, bro. I was going to add to that.
Okay, Reggie's actually from New York, and Slade is actually from New York. I don't think they missed the violence, but I appreciate. Reggie, go ahead and talk.
Okay, so here's the problem. The problem is I've been listening for the last 15 minutes quietly and just thinking. what our issue is that uh we can talk about the symptoms. We can talk about what reactions are, but what can we do to solve the problem, right? So Jabari is an individual. He's in an upper class in a niche where he was able to purchase the property that he has at a reasonable cost, right? And that property has exploded, right? And the group of people that are the property owners that are on his block, they face the same situation, right? So looking at the situation of an individual is really problematic, especially in a case that he is still in the Black community, right? And the Black community has these problems. So the question is, before y'all go bananas about who's right as an individual or the brother who got shot by calling the police, right? Those are individual issues. What is our group solution to the problem? What could you offer, right? You bright people on this chat, right? About pump some fear in them. I like Corey. You gotta love Corey, boy. Pump some fear into them. So you should go and get a court case. You should have a shootout. Well, you can't pump no fear. What is our group solution? Now we have other things going on. Now watch this. So you have someone, a college professor, somebody's academic, living on a block in the Black community, right? He chose that as a good investment, and it was a great investment for him and his family, right? But now he thinks a certain type of way, but he's still in the Black community. The police is like, generally, these are problems of the Black community. They need to solve it as a Black community, or at least as a Black association. So Jabari, as an individual, should not be calling the police, because the police may tell who's calling, like you said. So it needs to be a block association, right? And then strong block associations spread to the next blocks and spread to the next block, so that you create some type of barrier uh, uh, for
Yeah,
your.
that shit don't work.
Okay, so then what works? What works?
No, that does work. That absolutely works, Reggie. And that's
Yeah.
what me and Chevron said earlier. I don't know if you was there earlier, Reggie, but we talked
No.
about, like, I gave the example of Chevron outside tripping with the little niggas, right? It wouldn't do him no good if I don't go out there and trip with him, right? So that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean
Right.
by stand up. That's what I mean by stand up and pump fear in
Okay,
their
so
heart.
a
Like,
block
no, little niggas, you
association.
niggas ain't finna stand out here and sell no dope out here. And all the neighbors need to come out and tell them little niggas that.
Exactly.
That's what I mean. You know what I mean? And that's what
Exactly.
works. That's what works, Reggie.
Exactly.
Tenant,
With the
tenant,
block
tenant, tenant
association,
patrol, tenant,
the block
tenant patrol,
association.
tenant patrol. We used to have tenant patrol in my neighborhood.
Correct. So we have solutions. So, but when someone, for example, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying it, but I'm gonna say it. Just because somebody gets to a higher echelon of economics, and then all of a sudden you people who look like me are disturbing me, that doesn't work. What happens is, what we are trying to say
No,
is that.
I think he just got older, Reggie. I don't think it's like, oh, now I'm in a higher tax bracket, so now I feel like I'm over you,
Okay,
nigga. I think
whether
he's
he
just
got
older
older,
now, and then
whether he
now
got
he don't want
older,
to deal with that.
whether he got older or not, or maybe the loud music and the drinking and the cursing is messing with his his shrine. and it's problematic because maybe they're doing it when he has his events. But I don't want to take it to an individual, even though I'm laughing, because he's still in the Black community. So the appropriate thing is to organize your community, your block, and then your block goes to the precinct, right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
right, and then you create a barrier now where I know Brother Jabari lives at. He lives on the edge. So across the street from him is the projects, right? So, but on his block, believe it or not, is where Marcus Garvey lived, right? Marcus Garvey's house is the worst house on the damn block where Marcus Garvey lives. It's the worst damn building on the block. It's boarded
Still
up.
worth over $1 million though.
Huh?
Still worth over $1 million, but it's still worth over $1 million.
Nobody got enough money to go in and refurbish it. Yeah.
I'm
It
saying
costs you
for my
about $3 million
purposes,
to refurbish it. Yeah.
for my purposes, it's a landmark. It's probably worth $7 million. It's probably the most expensive block. But the neighbors, watch this, the same neighbors, they don't go, they could decorate it. They could do things to make that building, which is a complete eyesore, right, better, right? I don't know what it looks like. I haven't been there in 2 years, right? But they themselves is caring about their own selves instead of going up and saying, you know what, we are going to decorate this eyesore. So there's problems within problems. So the solution is, like I think that you are understanding, is that the block association gets together and they coordinate and they go to the precinct, and so it's not an individual. Now, for the young brother that got shot by saying, you know, don't, you know, can y'all stop this? Well, the problem is with that is that this is they have designated that as a drug community. The young brother should not have done that by himself. He should have at least organized the block association, or think about possibly moving because it might be out of his hands, because the police are involved in this action too. They get paid off. We got New York 30.
And don't ever do that, Reggie. The last part, you don't ever move away. Don't ever move. Fuck that, bro. Don't ever let nobody run you away from your home.
Well, here's the thing:
right.
It's easier for them. It's easier for the drug dealers to move, but it's easier for the drug dealers to move that shit over somewhere else versus me packing up my whole family.
Well, watch this.
That makes no fucking sense. Look what we do to ourselves.
Where I'm from, right? Home of sex, money, and murder, right? Where I'm from, listen, Mr. Big Mouth, not anybody on this chat, but generally, Mr. Big Mouth, check this out. You keep complaining, you may not get shot, your wife, your children, your mother may get shot. So now you can still live there. You can still live there.
Can I interject?
No,
can I interject? Last time I came to Harlem,
we're supposed to be. So we're supposed to.
Last time I came to Harlem, because the last time I came to Harlem.
No. See,
the last time I came to Harlem. The last time I came to Harlem.
I'm still talking.
It doesn't matter. The last time I came to Harlem.
I'm still talking. Doesn't matter.
The last time I came to Harlem. The last time I came to Harlem, I saw a white woman.
Savage shit that we're talking about with black people.
I saw a white woman walking up 125th Street.
This is the same savage shit that I'm talking about. I had the floor. I was paying attention to positive.
Don't let him tell you any bullshit. The last time I came to Harlem, a white woman was walking a poodle on 125th Street drinking.
We don't do that shit to white people. We only do that shit to our own people.
Okay, so you don't want to.
You said, hold on, Reggie. You said the home of sex, money. You said the home of sex, money, and violence, right? So now you're going to talk about how black people brutalize each other. But if white people move into that community and gentrify that shit, they clean that shit the fuck up. You respect
Okay,
the
I'm
white people, but you ain't gonna respect the
talking
motherfucking
about
black people in the community.
But you won't let me talk. But you won't
Go
let me
ahead,
talk.
Reggie. Go ahead, my bad.
Right,
Go ahead.
Cut me
Let's do this
off.
bullshit now.
Okay, so here's the thing. I was talking about solutions. Y'all want to talk about symptoms? You want to cut me off with symptoms and things that really don't matter. I am saying
No, you was talking about, you start talking tough about where you from and the homosex money. Finish that. That's what we was hitting off. We was hitting off that bullshit. Now go back down that road and tell us how tough your neighborhood was, the homosex money and violence and all this, and how you couldn't do that shit there. That's where you was going at.
So what happens is that in my particular building, right, where one or two of the members of that organization lived in, we did have tenant patrols. And our tenant patrols coordinated with the police department. So in my building, we had young girls, of course. We had just civilians, as you say, right? When our tenant patrol started coordinating with the police would show up in our building, right? And guess what? The activities stopped. The negative activities stopped, right? So I'm talking about structure and systems, right? And the inability to organize, right? When individuals stick themselves out, there is problems. But when there is so what we used to do in my building, my parents and their neighbors, they would all take turns sitting in the lobby of the building, right? And then they would also coordinate with the police department.
That's tenant patrol.
Okay. Can I say something now? Can I say
guess
something?
what? And guess what?
Too, and they start all women stop doing it.
No, let me tell you, let me give you a solution. Let me give everybody a solution. Any neighborhood you're getting into, find two white women and ask them to move in that neighborhood too. Because those people don't come them.
See, that's the dumb shit. So I gotta go.
Let me finish thinking.
So you want to bring in white folks to solve your problem?
Because New York Negroes are afraid of white women. I go to Harlem. I've been to Harlem over the years. And the last time I went to Harlem, you had white women walking poodle on 125th Street. And nobody touching them. And she had on a gold chain, and I looked at her good, and she had on a tennis bracelet with diamonds.
Okay.
And none of those Negroes, no Negro was standing up to touch her.
You visited Harlem, right? But what you don't know, what you do not know, which I do know, is that I'm not going to call them white people. I'm just going to call them. I'm just going to talk opportunist people. They looked at the value of those brownstones, and then they started marketing for what you call a settler population. So then a settler population.
You're beating on the bush. You're beating on the bush. White women walking poodles in Ireland on 125th Street.
You ain't got no solutions, Stupies.
No. White women walking poodles on 125th Street.
To have white people move into black communities.
Yes or no? White women walking
black
poodles
people
on
moving
125th
out.
Street.
You don't have any solutions for black people.
White women walking poodles on 125th Street.
That's a white solution, Stupies. That's not a solution for black people.
No, hold on. Before we go down to just arguing, right?
Yeah.
The point is, Reggie, you made some good points. And what we're saying, I think we reiterated almost everything that you were saying. Like, so that's fine, right? But the point is the solutions black people already have them. That's the point, and you just pointed out that we got the fucking solutions.
Yes,
you feel me? We can get the shit done. Like we know what to do. That's the whole point. Don't nobody gotta sit around and wait for white people to do shit. We already know what to do. When did that's my point? When did we not know what the fuck to do? So the reason our neighborhoods look like this is because we participate in this shit too much.
That's correct.
That's what it is.
That's
like
correct.
We just gotta admit it. Nobody is home. If your neighborhood if your street is full of trash, that's your problem. Nothing is stopping y'all from getting out there with garbage bags and stick points and getting the trash up.
That's
Nobody is stopping that. Like I just, if you got, listen, if the garbage don't run enough for the amount of trash that your neighborhood produce, right? I'm talking about homeowners. Then you got a neighbor with a pickup truck that can round everybody trash up once a week with the and take it to the local dump, and you can help pay for him to do that shit. There's always if your school not performing well, you got enough educated people in that who can dedicate time to go to that school and put extra. I'm trying to figure out how we act like we don't have the resources to fix common problems.
That's correct.
That we think we gotta call a white man in to fix common problems. That means we retarded.
That's correct. And so when so I was born in 65. So for 10 years, my parents used to send us down south. Right now in my community on 833 29th Street, Newport News, Virginia, right? My block was 95% African Americans, right? At the time that I was living there. Before it was a white community, and then my grandfather was the first Black person on the street. But after that, other Black folks started going to 29th Street, the outside, which was largely white folks, but then it became Black. Our neighborhood was always clean, right? Everybody was proud of their gardens, not their food gardens, not their plant gardens, right? And then as Sheffrin said, it was just natural to care about your community. What now is happening is that people become sheltered. They come in from work, they turn on their TV, they kiss their wife, and they try to have some semblance of their own personal social, but they don't communicate with their neighbors. They don't say hello to their neighbors. They don't organize. So Sheffrin is correct. We have the solutions. We have to. That's why history is there. We have to remind ourselves about the history. Jabari's block used to be one of the most vibrant blocks in Harlem, right? Garvey.
Hey, but Reggie, you can't blow past that. You made a crazy point that nobody said. Nobody, what happens today, Reggie, and it was genius. It was so simple, genius, right? What happens today is I get off of work, I pull up in the driveway, my neighbor is sitting outside, you know what I'm saying? What happens is I don't even go over and sit down and have a beer with him. I go straight in my house. You see what I'm saying? I don't sit down, and we don't have the barbecues. We don't have when the new person buys the home on the block, right? We had 2 new homeowners on our block. I don't even know their fucking name, bro. I don't even know what their name is. We got two young couples. They look like they in their 30s, right? And they just bought their houses. One bought their house like 2 years ago. The other one just bought their house last year, right? Two new homeowners on the block. I don't even know what their first name is, bro. It's crazy. So that's a big problem, man. Yeah, that was a good point.
And it starts right there because Corey, you was trained. You know what to do, and you know that people are not doing it. So in these communities, you have a welcome party, right? People come over and bring things to your house, introduce themselves, and you let them know what they're getting into, what the neighborhood is. And
yeah, we don't do it no more.
Right.
The old ladies don't bake the banana bread and take it over there to the house no more. Like none of this shit like where my grandparents used to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even in my dad's neighborhood, like I can remember when he first bought his house, you know, I was like 10 years old, right? And he got to the neighborhood. Everybody came in. he did a barbecue, and the whole fucking neighborhood brought their kids, and I met their kids and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? We don't do that shit no more, man. That's a big issue, bro. I think that's one of the that issue. I think that's been understated. How big of an issue that is, especially in some of the more lower income communities. I think that's needed more than like in my neighborhood, right? We need it in my neighborhood, obviously, but I think like in the lower income communities, that's needed even more. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
So you and Chef
Corey,
you and
Corey,
Chef
you have to listen now. When people go to the suburbs and the white people do that to them, right? They call it being nosy. They want to know too much. That sentiment is in the black community too. Where if you do that, people consider you like intruding on their space. You're trying to, you understand? So you have to remember that, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It is. That's the truth. That's a good point. That's a good point.
So see, here's the thing is, so America has changed. America, not just the black community, America has changed too. White communities are like this too. Young, if you go upstate New York, most of the young white people people that we call white, decline the skin, right? A lot of them, they inherited their parents' house, right? Their grandparents' house. And you can look at the yard sales that they're basically selling everything for methamphetamine and other type of things, right? So America has changed. So now we live in a
That's
world of
great.
social media.
America, yeah. That happens. One thing about it, bro, when I hear people describe things that go on in their community, it goes on in my community, and you see it. You know what I mean? So, like, absolutely, I see these people who. So, in the neighborhood where I grew up at, that my dad, where my dad bought his first house at, right? It was mostly white kids over there. Now, all of those kids own those houses now. But that neighborhood is fucked up, bro. I don't even recognize it no more, bro. I don't even recognize the neighborhood.
And so America has changed. And so like where okay. So unfortunately I got this cigar nasty habit, right? So I go and buy cigars. So I go to 207th Street, which is in 207th Street is part of a major corridor in the Dominican neighborhoods, right? Now, on every other block, Sherman and the rest, right? There's gang activity, there's people selling drugs, there's loud music, there's those motorcycles, every other block. But guess what? On 207th Street, where the business owners are, where they have decided to clean up themselves, you will find no crime or very, very little. You will find nobody on the street corners, right? Because the businessmen or the people who were formerly something else, who have cleaned up their money and have establishments, right? And most of these stores, the build out is at least $150,000 just for the build out, right? I mean, they got barbershops, Sheffrin, with 16 chairs in them. 16 chairs, right? Few customers, but 16 goddamn chairs. And they got all the mirrors and they got all of that other stuff, right? But what I'm trying to say is that community has decided 207th Street, you could do it everywhere else, but not on 207th Street. You try to use your gang colors. I don't care if you Dominican gang or what, you will disappear, right? So what happened is now when you have these business corridors connected to the residential communities, right? And you have a vested interest of people trying to make money, then there is a zero tolerance. We've forgotten all of this. We have become nuclear family, all of America largely nuclear family, right? The unsuccessful ones, nuclear families, and that is what's killing us. So it's not necessarily a black problem, it's an American problem, but we have forgotten that the success that we had for many years because we don't organize. Organizing is just doing what Corey's saying. Hey, how you doing? You want a beer? My name is my name is Reggie. My name is Corey. How you doing? I didn't get a chance to welcome you, but hey, wow, I'm in construction or I'm in investment and stuff like that, and I didn't get a chance to meet you, but hi, how you doing? Right? And fine. And look, if there's a cookout, hey, I'm having a cookout. You want to drop by, get some hamburgers, right? You know, I'm gonna spend my money on half the things for kids to come and stuff. My child is having a birthday. We don't do it. So when we don't do the simplest human things, right? We can blame it on everybody else. But for me to come on this channel and hear somebody say we need to get white people in our community, if the community is valuable, white people are smart, they'll take over the whole community.
Don't try to throw my words in the wrong way. I'm saying what I said. This is what I'm saying. That we know better because when white women walk in poodle dogs on 125th Street, no black person fucks with her. And you cannot deny. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we know better. We know what fucked up actions are, and we know what good behaviors are. Because when white women walking out, poodle dogs in front of you, when you're standing on 125th Street, what you say? You look at Sanity and say, Sanity, you see this bullshit?
Yeah, 125th
No,
Street is a corridor with multi-million-dollar businesses. Victoria's Secret is there. Chipotle,
but
I
you
think,
know
is
what I'm
there.
saying?
What are
When
you
white
talking
people,
about?
you know what I'm saying? When white people walking through Harlem, nobody fucks with them. Nobody
That's
even
not.
say anything to them.
That's
That's
not.
not
Anybody,
true.
You're acting like there's not crazy
Living
people.
on, you sit up here lying. That's not true.
It's not true.
it's lie. It's lie. Stupid
It's not
lie.
true. And you don't. You. I got. Listen. I'm in these communities more than someone like you that occasionally visits. All people get robbed. Robbery is an opportunity. What I'm saying is, America has changed, right? And again, if you look at some of the white communities that Corey was talking about, right? Well, it didn't gentrify. It might have gentrified, but it went to the negative direction, right? So America has a problem. The question is, what do the people do when there's a problem? They look for solutions. And solutions is organizing. That don't mean that you got to be black power or any of that stuff, right? But you do have to do the semblance that human society does, right? You have to put cameras. Quickest way to do is to ask the police department put up cameras. You know those cameras that they put up, right? Those cameras are very effective. They lead to arrests, sometimes worse, RICO charges, right? So if you have a community, you want to protect your community, you go and you petition for cameras to be put up in your community. Why? Because if things do happen, people will be apprehended, and that will be the end of that. But the lack of inaction is the root of our problem. So Corey's right, Sheffrin is right, some of the other people is right. We have forgotten we have the solutions because we're Americans. We have solutions. So if you want to protect your car, you want to protect your children, right? You want to live comfortably, then you should put some action into trying to organize other people who are like you to keep the property value up. But an individual calling the police, that doesn't work. Police will tell on you. Police are on the take in New
That's
York.
gonna get you shot. That's gonna get you shot.
That's correct. So I like this show because you have a variety of different thinking, right? Variety of different thinking. I like it. But what I have problems with is that well, you do check bad thoughts occasionally, right? Right. But in this case, it's a solution oriented issue, not the symptoms and problems. That happens throughout all America. The issue is what block associations, right? Getting to know your neighbors, being a good person yourself, instead of an asshole who's self-righteous because they think that they made it and don't want to talk to anybody. The loss of community is a thing that's respecting, and we want our communities to be better, right? We people who are still doing drugs and
Yeah,
street
but
violence.
I think what's going on with Jabari though, Reggie.
Huh? I wish I could hear you.
You
I can't
know,
hear
so
you.
I don't think it's fair to kind of. Oh, hold on one second. Give me
Oh,
about
I
five
didn't
minutes. I'll
mention
come
him.
back.
I only mentioned him for the point. I don't care two shoots, two struck. That's an individual. I didn't bring him up. Someone else brought him up, and I
Him
just
up.
said,
I brought him up because when
No, no,
people were saying that
I
he
think
was
it's
wrong to call
because
the police.
he.
People were saying that he's wrong to call the police, and we were arguing that it's not wrong. We were making arguments that he's
well,
not wrong. They have to protect the community.
the structure, the systems and structures, him as the individual telling people that he's calling the police, right? Uh, you know, that's not the way you do it. That's not that leads to problems. In some other communities, your whole building could be shot up, right where you live. That's not the way to do it in this in as America is in the situation that it is in. That is not the way to do it. So the way to do it is all quietly organized, like people like yourselves, to work as a unit, right? Individual taking action is it's you're individual against a group of people, right? So that's not the way in fact to do it, right? And so I think that what I'm saying is sensible. We have, like Sheffrin says, we know what to do. We know how to do it. We were raised that way. And then sometimes, for example, in the communities that I'm like Harlem, Harlem used to be run. Bumpy Johnson, people say a lot of things about Bumpy Johnson, right? But Bumpy Johnson was about community control for his business, which was numbers, and then later on drugs, but not necessarily drugs in the black community. It was Nikki and Nikki Bonds and Frank Lucas who who turned our communities into slums, right? For their own self righteousness, right? But Nikki was so powerful. I mean, not Nikki. Bumpy was so powerful when after they killed Malcolm, he went to the Nation of Islam and says, "Okay, you did what you thought you had to do. Okay, but we're gonna bury this man, and you're not gonna do nothing to his family, right? Y'all had a problem. Uh, you know, not saying that the Nation of Islam actually committed the assassination, but all this extra climate of hate, okay, it's over. And Nikki enforced that. Nikki enforced that. And Nikki was basically saying, look, you got your organization is strong, I know, but I got an organization too, and we a little bit more ruthless, right? Don't just everybody put down their swords and let's just kind of move on. Malcolm is gone, but Nikki controlled those blocks. So it was up until the, let's say, maybe 72. Uh, Harlem was a different environment in 72. Uh, After 79 to the 80s on, uh, yeah, it was really, really, really problematic, right? That's Harlem. And then the outer boroughs, uh, well, everybody ran to the outer boroughs because there was less community controls. There was mixed communities. People didn't like each other, right? And so I'm like Brass. I'm like to the rest of Trimedia and Corey and Sheffrin. Look, we have solutions, but all this craziness as if we don't know what to do is bananas. I'm gonna turn off my mic. Thank you for letting me talk.
Can you hear me, Reggie?
Maybe not.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't hear nobody. Oh, y'all hear me? Oh, okay.
I can hear you. Listen, Corey.
I like Reggie's. I like Reggie's evolution. Last week, I think maybe I was. A lot of times, we argue past each other, right? A lot of times, like one word in a sentence will determine how another person interprets your message, right? So last week, I think me and Reggie were more arguing, but not arguing like in the beef sense, but arguing in a legal sense, right? We were more having an argument because of the way I think I worded things, right? But I like the way Reggie and Chef kind of put the phrase together for us today, right? We as Black people, we have the solutions, right? And this is what I was trying to say last week, right? It's the same thing your grandmama and them told you. Your grandmama and them told you what the solution is. Your grandmama and them showed you what the solution is. Your grandmama showed you how to make the banana bread and go down and take it to the new homeowners. You know what I'm saying? Your grandmama showed you how to babysit the neighbor's child while he take his wife out to the movies because they don't get a chance to get out and they don't have older children that could take care of the littler ones, right? But my grandmother had older children that could take care of the littler ones, right? When she was coming up, but she recognized that this couple down the street don't have the advantage that she had, right? So when her and my granddad would go down to the blues house, you know what I mean, on Saturday, and they might stay overnight till Sunday because they got too fucked up and they couldn't drive back, right? They had the older children to stay there and watch it. But this younger couple, they don't have that. So, girl, y'all go ahead and go to the movies and I keep little Keisha and them. You see what I'm saying? Like, those are the community things that help. You know, Suzette, the lady that stayed across the park. So we had a park that divided my block from Suzette's block, right? To get to Suzette's backyard, you would have to walk across the basketball court, right? Suzette would come over and borrow eggs and sugar. You know what I'm saying? She'd borrow a pound of bacon and shit like. We don't loan out eggs no more. We don't loan a cup of sugar no more. You know what I'm saying? We don't have the barbecue and the housewarmings and all these things that Reggie is talking about, right? Everything that was said today, everything that Sheffrin said today, everything that Reggie said today, I think that is the answer to the Black community. Like Sheffrin said, we got the solution. It's been given to us. It's been taught to us. It's been beat in us. Your mamas never beat your ass with a switch to steal that in your ass. Believe me, they done switched it into your ass. Now you get your smart ass out here when you get halfway grown, and now you think you know better than what Granny and them know.
Exactly. Exactly. Motherfuckers then already told us. We think Black people was just fucking stupid, that you was raised by complete idiots and they ain't know how to navigate a fucking white America. Like, we think we're just starting over from scratch every generation.
Right.
Like what those Black people fucking instilled in us or tried to instill in us, they was just wrong. Right? And we gotta figure everything out from scratch because this a new white man that we up against, and man, that shit ain't fucking true.
They think they better than Granddad, right? Because Granddad drove an old Ford truck. Now Granddad had a bankroll, right? But they didn't know. They couldn't see it. They couldn't see that granddad had a bankroll because he wasn't driving a G-Wagon, right? So what it is, Sheffrin, is they don't want to be like granddad. You see what I'm saying? They don't want to be like him, so they ain't gonna do what granddad was doing was stupid. That's why granddad never had shit.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Brass, what up? Where you been at? We've been in here
where you
kicking
been at,
ass.
No,
We've been in here kicking the white man ass all day.
No, it's just been a bunch of niggas on mute listening to you two niggas signify. So I just want to, and I'm gonna stand on my square. I don't got the patience for these conversations no more, so you're gonna hear me a lot less. I'll record it if y'all ask me to.
Okay.
But I have to say, some people grandmothers ain't shit. Some people's mothers ain't shit. I hate to say it, Corey. I know. I'm trying to let y'all just have it, and everybody listen to y'all and celebrate the community unity of the black people.
But my feelings ain't gonna be able to handle you, Brad. Go ahead.
Listen, I've said y'all been talking for 5 hours. I'm staying out of these conversations for my own sanity and mental health. But I'm gonna say this to y'all: if y'all could we move the conversation to, okay, we could sweep the floor and take the garbage out and loan sugar. Could we talk about the actual policy that none of that shit is gonna actually fix? Or we just thinking that if we start loaning out sugar and taking out the garbage, what Chef say? Get a pickup truck. Go get a pickup truck if the sanitation don't come by and pay that guy to do. Okay, once y'all do all of that,
I love the minimization tactic. That's one I use myself. But go ahead, you did it. That was perfect though. You get an A on that one though.
I'm just saying, because Corey, every single day you post and you show us the things that we probably already know, the systemic issues, how they've actually created these environments that we're talking about right now, where I know Stu Pease visited New York for a couple of days, so he knows exactly what's going on in Harlem. But he didn't visit in August when the 69-year-old white woman on a walker got shot in the midday in East Harlem. But he must not was there on that day. But so I just want to know, once we finish doing all of these community unity things, I just want to know when does policy, what are we going to do to affect the actual solutions? So once we fix the community, they don't fuck it up again. That's I mean, I know everybody's listening in Kumbaya, but I apologize if I just fucked
Who's
up.
the day? Who's the day to fuck it up again? One step at a time, though. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I don't. I know. I've just realized nobody wants to hear from me. I think I'm the death knell in this room. I thought Chef was the death knell, but apparently Chef and how great Baltimore is doing, it just doesn't. It just I'm not. I don't know. I'm just not a reflection of the black community, I guess.
The Baltimore Avenue, man, and the murder rate is significantly down.
I don't know. I mean, because all these things that Chef is saying, they're amazing. But I'm wondering if Chef actually has done any of this because of that shithole Baltimore that he lives in. Make that make sense. I don't know. When we say that black people have the solutions, right? Then you come in and say, oh, well, the shithole Baltimore don't prove that we have the No, that's not what what I'm saying, Chef, is you got these brilliant ideas about community unity, and I agree. I'm just asking, did anybody in Baltimore get this message that you're giving? Did anybody in Newark get this message? No. So you telling me it ain't nobody doing good in Newark? No, I just said I just if you didn't let me finish my sentence, I don't mean to highlight Baltimore, but it's you saying go back to Newark. So I haven't lived in Newark for 20 years. I can't go back to Newark. So there's no thriving communities in Newark.
black communities in Newark.
I know you trying to flip me.
No, even when you was there, 20 years ago when you was there.
Oh no, when I lived in, I was part of the problem when I lived there.
So there was no thriving black communities in Newark in 20 years
Right
ago.
now in Newark, New Jersey, there are no thriving,
Man.
And in all of the communities that in most of the cities on the East Coast, the only reason I brought up Baltimore is
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not here to focus on your worldview and your beliefs. I'm just saying the only reason I brought up Baltimore is because you physically live there now. I haven't lived in Newark in a very long time. I'm just saying, if these things are so simple, have they tried? Is this something like, where are you getting the fact that this is going to work out? That these simple community unity things are going to work? Is this something that was done and y'all have seen this like work somewhere where they just skips the zoning, it skips the mass incarceration, it just beats all of the policies? So
I'm about to walk through my neighborhood. I'm gonna show you.
No.
I'm about to show you.
No.
I'm gonna show you.
No, that's
I'm gonna show you how black people in Baltimore live peacefully and well-to-do in decent neighborhoods, and what make, like, why wouldn't it work? I don't understand.
So then why?
Like, is there something about us?
No, sorry, the numbers wrong or the stats wrong? Is the education?
See, you wasn't here when we explained the numbers. You wasn't here.
I wasn't.
No, right. I wasn't. So we because Mujasi brought that up. He brought up statistics, right? The statistical such and such don't, bro. Do you know there is black people that live in these statistical categories that don't live according to the statistics, the poverty level that those statistics say? There's a lot of people in so-called poor statistical neighborhoods who do that just to get an advantage. Meaning, I will put this person income as the income so we can get this house voucher. But there's people in here who's making this, so we don't live at this level. I'm going to get this, I'm going to be in this statistical category so I can get this voucher to pay my children's what's that, daycare voucher. Because what I make, right, if I put my actual salary down, right, then I'm not going to be able to afford, I'm not going to be eligible for this daycare voucher. But what I make, right, I can't even afford to pay daycare because that's another $1,200 a fucking month that I don't have, right? So I'm gonna
don't tell on.
I'm not telling on
myself. He's Jabari. He's going full Jabari right now. Nobody's shot him yet. So keep snitching.
No, that's not snitch. We talking to each other.
No, I know, but we're live. So I mean, you are telling.
Oh well, we ain't talking about nobody. Listen, so now we can't really have the conversation. We're going to have the conversation like black people don't know how to manipulate the system.
No,
right?
No.
That's not what I'm saying.
In these days, you have to talk about circumstances. You can't even apply it to yourself because it's technology.
I'm not talking about myself. My child is in college. I'm not talking.
Good. Move on.
So Chef, when Donald Trump said what he said. Damn, I promised myself I wasn't going to participate. I'm going to participate just a little bit. When Donald Trump said what he said about Baltimore, and
Donald Trump is a billionaire white man. He don't understand how black people live. Bro, that's crazy.
No, let me finish. Well, if you didn't hear everything I said, you don't even know. I'm not about to defend Donald Trump. I said when he said what he said about Baltimore and Mayor Scott, came out and defended Baltimore. He said, well, based on the numbers, Baltimore is doing so much, it's doing this, it's doing that, this, that, and the other. And the old black lady came out and said that mayor doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I've been living here for 50 years. Those numbers have to be incorrect. So are the correct numbers the fucked up numbers, or are the bad numbers the fucked up numbers? Which one is the fucked up numbers? Because Trump,
if
I
he's
mean, Scott
defending,
said Trump was wrong, but then the citizens got on
right.
TV and in the news article and all said, no, it is fucked up here. I don't think Baltimore, I don't think that, I mean, the lady, she's like 70 years old. I'll go get the article again. But she said it herself. She said, well, if that's what the numbers are saying, it's not indicative of what actually is going on because it's fucked up here. That's what she said. And she's lived there for over 50, 60 years.
So is this a politician's argument or
no?
Like,
you was just saying the stats. No, you was just saying that the stats. I'm saying, are the good stats wrong or are the bad stats wrong?
no, I'm saying the stats can be what the stats are. It doesn't mean that people are actually that's 100% that's how people are living. That's not their normalcy, right? Like,
no, I would agree with. I would
like
agree with
poverty,
that. Saying,
right?
Are we
Right.
disregarding the old lady?
No, we're not disregarding the old lady. You wouldn't disregard me, right?
I'm not.
Right. So if the old lady lives in a community that then went to shit since if she's 70, if her shit then went to shit, right? Then she's absolutely correct. Corey just said when he go by his old neighborhood, it don't look how it looked when he was a child. You dig what I'm saying? The shit then got, everybody can attest to that. So if she's still staying in the same neighborhood that went to shit from when she can remember to what it is now, then yeah, she will be telling the actual fact. But if I walk through my community in Baltimore, I can say we uplifted our shit. We kept a standard around this motherfucker. We didn't allow it to go to shit. And
what community are you in Baltimore?
Because Ashburton. Because the people
that, like south, east, north, west, like how would it be classified?
It's west. Type in Ashburton community, Baltimore, West Baltimore. You dig what I'm saying? Right? And we didn't allow our shit to go to shit. Right? So certain neighborhoods did succumb to you dig what I'm saying? So certain neighborhoods, and then it's block by block here also. You can have a block of homeowners on one block, you go over to the next block, it's fucked up. You feel me? So this shit, it fluctuates. So I'm not gonna say the lady is fucking lying, but if she's 70 years old and she's saying when her neighborhood was, I guess, good, and now her shit then went down, some people don't have the ability to move or to control their neighborhood. Some people gotta stay there. You feel me? Like
I would add, you know, she's 70, which is I'm 60, so she's 10 years older than me. So wow, I'm an old man. So the issue is that I don't know who this lady is, and she's talking about maybe her 4 blocks or 8 blocks, right? She's not talking about all the places in Baltimore, right? So this becomes newsworthy for an agenda, right? You understand news is controlling, and they like what she said, and some other people might have said some other things, but they didn't like what they said. They like what she said because Trump's war on America, right, is in the news right now. He's trying to have an internal war in America. That's in fact what's happening. So it's good for the news, but she's not necessarily in control of the facts, right? Government officials, they're in control of the facts. They look at economic disparity. They look at crime. They look at a number of different factors. And a person like the mayor could say, look, from the numbers, it's better. Now, on a microcosm, it may not look like it's better, but overall, it's better. So that's when an elected official, I don't know if I guess he's the mayor. He does some good things and some bad things, but for his personal things. But I just think that we have to take what this woman said with a grain of salt. Now here's Trump. Let me tell you Trump now. Trump just got Adams to try to agree to put $200 to $300 million into Fifth Avenue. So he wants to, for his reasons, where his place of business is on Fifth Avenue, he wants to put more money in it, and he wants to take it away from the boroughs that are suffering, right? So these things are really, really contradictory because the boroughs are suffering. They have all the problems, but he wants to put $200 to $300 million on Fifth Avenue, which is already great for retail. No crime, hardly any crime, right? So we have to, when we're on these shows, we have to take all of these things as a grain of salt. We have to look at the big picture, but the microcosm matters, right? But Baltimore is extremely important. Watch this, to America. It's one of the eastern seaboard places, right? It has a port, right? Like Newark. Newark is incredibly important. It has a deep water port, right? Watch this. If you go to Detroit, Detroit has a deep water port. All of these are good for international, but to control, you gotta control the populace, because the populace the populace gotta suffer for these big plans that they have. Detroit is basically devastated, but yet it's right next door to Canada. The people can't take advantage of that deep water port. Baltimore too, right? Newark too. Why is Newark in the situation that Newark is in when Newark's port is extremely lucrative? So we have to see, we have to look at the big dynamics. But we're in the muck and the mire for the most part in our communities. But we have the power if we exercise it and we get out of our nuclear family type, because we're not protected like white America or what like white America was. But white America is devastated. They go to these places to buy the drugs, right? I was listening to Nick Fuentes. Crazy how black people are dangerous.
Why would you do that?
Because why? Because talking to us is normal. Talking to people like Nick Fuentes and the rest of these people, right? When they are wrong and you catch them lovely, then it's much more influential, right? It's much more influential than talking to us about our situation. Nobody listens. But when you say Nick Cannon, you what do you got, an associate degree? You're saying that black people are dumb?
Masters. But no, what I was saying, what I mean by why would you listen to him, I meant more along the lines of, I kind of more agree with you on, I don't really listen to those people. I just do the work because their job is to manipulate. At least Chef, me and Chef may disagree on a lot of things, but he's not going to manipulate a stat. People like him and Sowell and Candace Owens and previously Charlie Kirk, when they talk about the black community, they manipulate some stats, not all, but they manipulate stats for talking points because they're entertainers. So that's what I was saying is, if you work on the policy part, not necessarily talking to them, they're doing that on purpose to speak to their base.
But most of the black people that talk, that interface with some of these people, to me, they're not very strategic and not very right. So they let them get away with what? So why would I be interested in Charlie Kirk or Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens? Is because if I could affect people who disagree, or who can find that I have merit, that's more important for me to get out the big idea. Because Nick Fuentes, you don't know what you're talking about. Black people are wrong. That's his thing. Yeah.
I want to go back to Newark real quick because I haven't been there in a very long time, but Psycho is there. So I would be he's more boots on the ground and lives in the area. And he says that Forest Hill and Ivy Hill are doing a lot better. If Psycho is in the chat, Forest Hill and Ivy Hill were used to be terrible when I was there. So if they're doing better, then I would look at that as as definitely a win. So I would be incorrect in saying there's no thriving parts of Newark because he's on the ground. I'll take his word for it. I know the riverfront is doing a lot better. I know that. I know the riverfront is doing a lot better. So I ain't gonna just speak ill of a place that I grew up at just because I don't know.
And I went to I got off at Newark train station. I guess Newark Central. I don't know what it is.
Penn Station.
Yeah, Penn Station, and it was like it smelled like a slave ship, right? And
that was a terrible statement you just made, but go ahead.
No, what I mean is people jumbled together. A lot of people are yeah. It smelled like a slave ship. Now the issue is
Jesus Christ.
What's that?
This is Penn. Oh, he got his
Y'all
dog
need
out.
some lawn. Y'all need some lawn care where y'all at, show severely.
You ain't recognized.
Hey, mute up, man. This nigga's.
Hey yo, bro, they definitely calling police over there where he neighborhood. They definitely calling police over there. Hell yeah.
You got a nice neighborhood. You
Nah,
got a baggie for your dog in case they poop.
Steph, you like your neighborhood actually look just like mine. Actually, that's why.
Nice, Steph.
I'm trying to figure out.
Yo, Steph, when was the last time you heard a gunshot in your hood?
That look like
When's
an
the last
empty
time you heard a
neighborhood in
gunshot over
Detroit. That look like an empty. That look like one of them abandoned.
Except for I got a lot more kids. It's like a lot more kids outside in my neighborhood. But actually, like
it's middle of the day. Everybody's supposed to.
No, they just getting out of school. They about to come through.
Hey, what is that on
I
the
want to
corner?
know if you got a baggie for your dogs.
You know, Chef just listen.
Steph ain't got no. He letting his dogs get in there.
Ain't no lawn care. Where's the lawn care? What's up with all them fucking leaves?
The leaves just start falling.
They just start falling.
Hey, Chef, you know what y'all need? Y'all need some of them Newark. I can't say that.
Mexican.
So
yeah,
in my neighborhood, right? So
you
my
a hater, bruh.
Listen, Brad.
So
listen, Brad.
That's too many leaves for me. That's disgusting.
Nigga, my block cleaner than his, and I live in the project, bro.
No, listen though, Brad. Listen.
I'm listening
get out
to
there
you.
with their rakes.
So my cousin,
your dog
he
take a
bought
shit,
the house directly across the street from me, right?
Uh-huh.
His house is straight. When you go out my front door, you're looking directly at my cousin's house. Now, everybody in my neighborhood, they take pride in breaking and manicuring their yard by themselves, right? Now, he is the only one
We gonna get Mexicans.
He gets lawn care. Right? He goes and gets lawn care. Everybody, his yard is the cleanest yard in my neighborhood because he got a lawn service. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else do their own shit. But they look at him like, yo, like, what's up with him? Like, everybody looking at him like, bro, what he do? You know what I'm saying? Like, why he gotta have, you know, these Mexicans coming over here cleaning up his yard? Why he can't clean his own yard up? I was like, man, I don't know, cuz, you know, he good dude, whoopie whoop, but I really know, right? We all work for a living, so we can't see paying somebody, right? You know what I'm saying, to do, cuz don't work. You know what I'm just gonna say that. I'm not gonna say what he do.
Y'all some snitches, and for y'all to be talking about Jabari, y'all some serious snitches on this. Y'all snitching like a motherfucker. What's the age of these houses on this block? They're beautiful, but that's old architecture.
No, my neighborhood was built for the Vietnam vets.
I'm living in a new development.
I would not let you. You better get that dog off my fucking lawn. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, so my neighborhood was.
Look at this fucker. He needs to get that bush off the fucking. What's going on here?
They don't know what to do. They got a nice neighborhood, but they don't.
Hey, that nigga don't. Hey, go back, Chef. This nigga don't even got a driveway. He just got 2 lines.
He need to holler at me.
No, he got gravel. He got gravel. He gravelled.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah,
these are
I
paid.
They got nice
I know
neighborhoods.
you're a
that
fucking
gravel as a
terror with
sub
two
for
goddamn pit
Jeff.
bulls. They need to get you out of the
Brask is
fucking
taking on a different level.
They need to get you out. Chef, I think you might be the worst nigga in y'all neighborhood. Get them
Yeah,
goddamn
but actually, that house is pretty damn big. Right there, right?
You ain't got no
I didn't know
muzzles.
houses that big on my.
We ain't got no muzzles on this shit, Reggie. None.
It ain't none of that
That's a
grass.
big house.
That grass great like a bad
Yeah,
day.
you part of the problem.
Yeah, you need to get your
Yo,
ass. I'm gonna do
yo. Hold on, bro.
I think you live in a better
Hey, man,
neighborhood.
come on, yo, Chef, bro. You gotta
Come
get a better,
on, man.
you gotta get a
Y'all
better,
ain't
get a
doing
better leash
Jeff
than
right.
that, man.
Man, I like
Y'all
Jeff.
hating on this man's
They
dub.
complaining about they complaining about the leaves, but look at the greenery.
Beautiful neighborhood. Beautiful
Are y'all
neighborhood.
fucking crazy?
I think it's hate.
Beautiful.
Are y'all fucking crazy?
You're walking
No,
in the
that's a
middle
good-
of the
that's a
street,
good
you
neighborhood,
fucking
Chef. Let 'em
vagrant. Get out
tweet.
the middle of the street.
Listen, that's a
I'd
good
have called the
neighborhood.
cops on your ass
You
10
don't got a
minutes
hoodie
ago.
on, do you?
Yeah, I got a hoodie on.
Yeah, I'd have
Oh,
called you. I'd have
man.
called the cops on you 10 minutes ago. You walking in the middle of the street with two pit bulls.
Jabari would have called the police on you.
Yeah,
I ain't
Jabari
gonna
would
lie,
have called the
Chef,
police on you
that
way
would like
long time ago.
No, it's a beautiful neighborhood.
No,
But
that
we
is
don't
a
got
that
a
is
lot
a
of
that
pit
is a
bulls.
nice that's a nice
Somebody
neighborhood.
might
Now do
call
me a
the
favor.
police.
Now go now I want you to get in your car and drive 5 minutes and take me to
Right.
the row houses. I know the row houses.
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
look, hold on. I'm gonna do that for y'all, and I'm gonna show y'all. You got beautiful houses, a fucking row house. But look at the Black Lives Matter. Look at how black people we love each
Hey,
other.
go take
We
that
love
sign
ourselves.
down. That's horseshit.
You know what I'm saying? Black Lives Matter.
Go take that. Whatever. Go take that sign down.
Red, black, and green. You
But at least that lawn got less leaves on it.
Yeah,
Tell these
they're
niggas,
lawn,
Jeff.
they're
Come
lawn,
on
and they
now.
got
Y'all hate- they call
flowers
a
and
service.
everything. And you
Get a
about to let
lawn
that dog take a shit on that good lawn.
Yeah,
That's the greenest grass in that whole neighborhood.
And you got
You
the
gonna let
dog
him
on
take
that
a
lawn.
shit on it?
he got his dogs all on their lawn. Look at that.
That's why he
Hey
wanted
Mongo,
to.
hey Mongo, it's neighborhoods and gentrification. Look at them old ass trees. Y'all better not
Yeah,
never
bro,
come
this
to
tree's about 100 years old, bro.
them motherfuckers dead.
Damn, bro, he
trees,
ain't got no parked on the street.
the
That's a
trees ain't
See,
fucking
I like
dead.
them older
What that
neighborhoods.
sign? What that sign say? What that
The
sign?
the
Speed
buildings that
bump.
they give us.
Oh yeah, no. If y'all got a speed hump, it's something hidden in there. Y'all got some problems.
Yeah, because motherfuckers know
If you
kids
can't
that
drive
play.
through that
No,
motherfucker,
We got a
that play.
speed bump too.
It's kids that play. You need these speed bumps because motherfuckers
Yeah,
will come through here while little kids.
I got them on my block too, bro. They on my block too. I got them too.
We actually fought for ours.
And you walking
actually
two goddamn pit bulls and his kids play through.
See, niggas can't even fix the problem. If niggas is fixing the problem, y'all still got
Hey,
there.
now wait, go to the left. Go to the left. That's a lawn right there. See, that's what I'm
That's a
talking
lawn.
about.
Yeah.
That's a lawn.
Yeah,
That's green. That's green.
Oh, that's
That's a
a
lawn.
beauty. Yeah, that's a beauty. That's a beauty there.
Get
That's
out
a
the
beauty
street, you
there.
fucking vagrant. Where are you at?
That's a beauty there.
Yeah, Chef.
ass.
Them houses are way bigger than mine.
gate,
Yeah, you
bro.
live in a better neighborhood than me. Actually.
What the fuck kind of architecture? And see, that's a house. What kind of architecture is that?
That's like Latin.
Yeah, that's like
It's
some
like-
that's like some Pueblo action.
Mhm. Yeah, these
You
like
just-
Latin. So they all
Yeah, they
switch up. They switch up from block to block.
But see, these motherfuckers are smart. They got rid of them damn
That's
dangerous
plaster
ass
work.
trees.
You know, that's plaster work on the outside of them house. That costs money.
That costs money to get. Like they
That's the work.
redoing this one. I'm about to walk down here. They redoing this one. You
Yeah,
feel me
keep
down
walking
here?
because I told the authority.
You know, I
told the
could do
authorities you're gonna
plastering,
be
but
2
I
blocks
ain't
over in 10
in
minutes.
that. But we my union is in with the plasterers, right? But
Hey, Chef,
I
I'm gonna
ain't
tell
trying
you right
to-
now. If you walk down the middle of my street, you got 30 seconds. I'm telling you right now. If you walk down the middle of my street with 2 pit bulls, you wouldn't last 30 seconds for the police to say, license them. What the fuck are you doing here, hooded boy?
So so what it is like some of these houses, like, cause they all plaster. Like these motherfuckers is like hard. Like if you buy this motherfucker, the upkeep
You gotta
on
maintain it.
Yeah, you gotta maintain it, right?
Yeah.
So this one right here, somebody is, these
Motherfucker
people
cut
right
the
here,
grass and just left the shit there.
they redoing this one.
Plaster,
It's
yeah.
costing so much money for them to, I think somebody brought it and they ain't had the money to fix this bitch up.
Don't
They
nobody
done
live in that
stopped
house,
work
right?
on it. Yeah, this the one they working on. They
Yeah, I'm about to
fixing it
stay
up.
the side of that motherfucker.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's big money in that plaster
Yeah.
too, because you got to maintain it. That's one thing
Yeah,
about
Why
plaster.
why are so many Aztec kind of Hispanic looking houses? Is this a Hispanic neighborhood?
No, they
Oh
black
my
black
God.
people.
This
It's just
Don't
the
look like
architect.
that
Yeah,
looks something out of
it
a Mayan ruin.
So it was
Turn my
it
camera off.
was a time when that
That
architecture
shit
was
was
real popular.
Y'all ain't noticing houses don't be spread.
Black, you can't say Baltimore that she told in the morning.
No, that architecture was real popular at one time, like in the early 80s, late 70s.
Psycho said, I wouldn't feel safe in that neighborhood at these times. You braver than me. We got a town right outside of Newark. Right outside of Newark, you got Newark, then it runs Irvington. But then if you keep going further up Springfield Avenue, that town look like Maplewood, New Jersey.
Here, I'm looking.
That's got a nice park and all of that. But if you drive down Springfield Avenue, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's everywhere. That's everywhere here.
That's not
You know
here.
what I mean? If I go 6 blocks and west, I can take you into the hood. You dig what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, it's scattered like that. You know what I mean? But even the hood that's adjacent to this ain't that fucking bad. You got to go downtown to get into some.
Well, it's levels. You know that though, Chef. It's levels. Like Maplewood, you got Maplewood, and then you got Irvington. You got Verona up there. But the closer you go into the inner city, the further, like, it's a bus called the 25. The 25 will take you from the Penn Station, what Reggie described as a slave ship. And Psycho, I hope you remember that Reggie said Penn Station is like a slave ship. And then if you ride the 25 all the way up Springfield Avenue, you'll pass the high school. The high school's in the hood, but it's like a nice school, St. Benedict's. But if you keep going all the way up, it'll seem like you're seeing the levels of poverty get less and less, and then you'll get up by the Maplewood bus station, and then you're in like Columbia, Verona, real nice neighborhoods. But those you could just ride the bus and you'll see it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to get some lawn. I got a business idea for some people out there. Just some lawn care. It's simple, because the grass is a little. But you live in a nice neighborhood. I think you are probably the only problem with that neighborhood. You and them damn dogs.
Hey, everybody around here got dogs.
Yeah,
Them ain't dogs, them dugs.
Dude.
Them is not. You pronounce them niggas correctly. Those are pit bulls.
Come on.
I saw that motherfucker. He'll lock on your ass. You need a gun. You had to kill him to get it off of you.
Yeah, Bryce. I used to live a Weir Walk by Leslie and Lyons. And Union was like that to Weir Walk. Once you get in the Union,
New Jersey too. Yeah, Union, Hillside, over there by Route 22.
So we have some bad apples, and we got a
But
lot
if you
of
was
bad
on Lions, you was around the corner from Stick and Stab. Stick and Stab, 16th Avenue.
We have a lot of bad apples in our community, but we have a lot of good apples too. So the good apples have to work together to keep their property value at the rate that they want, and to train the new residents on what to expect. And it doesn't happen by osmosis. It doesn't happen by osmosis. But we got to stop looking at the news, because the news is not portraying the positive things about our community. The news is for advertisers, right? To sell you products. So they're going to look for problems so that they can sell you, products. So if it's health issues that they health medicine is the biggest advertisers. They love problems, right? And so
like my neighborhood, Reggie, if I was to sell my house right now, I couldn't even afford to move back in the city.
Nope. No, absolutely.
You feel me? Like that's how crazy shit is right now. You feel me? Like I couldn't even afford to back in this motherfucker if I was to tell my motherfucker. Because shit went up so motherfucking, you know what I mean? Shit.
Yeah, these brownstones.
That shit,
In the 80s,
barber money.
in the 80s, you could buy a brownstone in Harlem for $30,000, $40,000. Today they're worth $3 to $4 million, and right. And
They still got some
so
decent ones for
But there's a
1.5,
reason that was worth that
1.7.
price in that age because of the violence and the cracking out of the forgery around here. Don't act like they were just worth that.
say that again. I don't understand.
he said they was down because of all of the fuckery that was going on
Right,
in
but
that
that was by design. And then one day, 1 week, all the lights came on, right? All of a sudden, sanitation was going down the block. This is with Charlie Rangel's empowerment zone, right? All of a sudden, Harlem changed overnight.
Y'all going back in the yard. I just wanted to walk through. Y'all going back in the yard. I'm going to play video games. Come on.
But tell them the truth about the brownstones too. Remember, a lot of people that don't know Manhattan and Harlem, Harlem is just Manhattan. They just call it Harlem. Is this 212? So you're not going to do that. But the main issue was it wasn't just the crack and stuff, anathema. It was also a lot of those buildings. There were people that invested in those neighborhoods. Huge realtors before Clinton. Once Clinton
be reverted.
Then it went absolutely crazy. But I hate to say it that y'all don't like to talk about the systems, but that was the redlining in that neighborhood, and there was a lot of discriminatory lending there too. And then also a lot of the fucking there was a white flight that took place in that area. So what happened was the city at one point held a lot of those brownstones. Matter of fact, in the early 80s, correct me if I'm wrong if that's the early 80s or the early 90s, Reggie, because my sister, I ain't telling y'all that, somebody I know owned one of them brownstones, kind of close to Jabari, and right around the corner from Douglas. And there was a lottery of those brownstones in like the early 80s, early
You're absolutely
90s.
right. It was during the
So they were
Compton
getting them at like 5,000, and still with low interest. What they was doing was giving low interest. Stop me when I'm incorrect. I'm just telling you the story a friend of mine told me that some of those were like between 5 and 50. But what they were doing was they were telling you, like, we know this is fucked up, but we're going to give you rehab loans. And they were giving them because they were trying to get people to live there. And then after that, some of those they turned into historical sites, and then they started treating it like historical preservation, and it turned the whole fucking neighborhood around. But if you walk right around the corner of some of them brownstones, you get your ass shot and robbed. Trust and believe, because them shits are definitely not that far from the hood.
So to add to it, so when Koch was mayor, right? This is in the 90s, right? When Koch was mayor, that's when the lotteries started, right?
Okay.
So that means a whole other community can come in, and they came in as a cabal, and they bought up and they sat on it.
Yeah.
All they had to do was pay taxes, and they kept it messed up until generations. So it was a generational investment,
right?
For them. And then in the 2000s, then all of a sudden all the lights came on, sanitation started coming, ticketing.
Well, Clinton moved there, brother Reggie.
I know. I worked in the building.
Clinton moved there, shit, you couldn't recognize Harlem as much work as they was doing down there.
When I worked in a law office, when I worked in the law office, our property was 125th Street. So we ultimately had to move out because how can I say, when Clinton and them moved in, the rent went bananas. We lived we worked in it was a law office. We worked on the second floor, but we could not afford it during that time period. So I used to walk outside my job when we did move. I saw Clinton outside, and
it was the zoo. Clinton came outside and it was black women. They was out there. Oh, you got a fat ass. Oh, look at black. You so tall, right? And black women was just going bananas over Bill Clinton, right? But I only say that to say that we know what to do, but sometimes what happens is we don't hold our elected officials accountable. We elect them in, and then they take the deals, right? And the deals are not equal to us. Charlie Rango, well, he's deceased now, but he was one of those people who did it for himself. And he didn't live luxurious. He just did it to just do it because he had power. But ultimately, he thought for the better good of Harlem that it needed to be cleaned up, even if it wasn't us that benefited from it.
Yeah, Representative Rangel's one of my favorite. I actually went to the what's the name about him when he passed, but my father was close. But with Harlem, that's one of those rare neighborhoods. Not rare because they did it in Newark too. A lot of times you don't know the city owns some of these things, and because they know the plans that are going to happen 20, 30 years from now.
Correct.
So they get in on a lot of that stuff, and then they open up the money. But like there was a time in Harlem. That's what I kind of like to my point earlier. Some of it I agree with Chef. That's why I agree and disagree on some points. But some of these situations, whether we know it or not, there's a level of disinvestment. There's a level of controlled, not price gouging, trying to control a neighborhood and keep it at a certain price. That no level of sweeping or going next door to borrow sugar or what Granny is saying. If they want that neighborhood to be shit to a certain extent, and I'm not saying they do that everywhere, but I know in Newark, before they started tearing down the projects, it got excessively worse. And then come to find out 10, 15 years later, we found out that they pulled the police out on purpose. They were putting up a lot of methadone clinics and just different things. They were purposely not removing the homeless in and around Penn Station until it began, I think, around Cory Booker's time, and then now you got Baraka. But now with Penn Station, you can get off a train in Penn Station now, and you don't ever have to touch the city of Newark. And they did that on purpose. There was never a case where, when you got off that train, you had to go through Newark to get where you had to go. But now they got it basically where you never have to actually see Newark. You go from the train to a shuttle to wherever the hell, outside of Newark. But there was times when they were purposely, I'm talking about, and Psycho, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm remembering about what's his name? Prince Street projects before they tore that down. To not Broad Street, whatever where Cory Booker was living at the top of the hill by Quitman Street School. There were just areas where they just left it abandoned, like Detroit to an extent. If you drive through Detroit, there's certain neighborhoods in Detroit, like Hell's Night, night before Halloween, where it just doesn't matter. It's just the neighborhoods are just fucked up because
they got some nice houses in Detroit.
They do, but the problem is
that shit is abandoned. It's
abandoned.
But you can look at the architecture.
Urban Turner, that's where it is.
That's some nice, man. God dang.
No, it is, but what it is Detroit.
That's fucked up. They let that city go like that.
Nah, that's that white flight when GM left Detroit. The white people left Detroit, and then the city just stopped investing in it, and they stopped putting police in there, and they stopped doing that. Now, where I'll give credit to Detroit, residents of Detroit, they held on for a very long time. They policed their own neighborhoods. In Detroit, they got this thing called Devil's Night. It's a Midwest thing, but I think they have it everywhere. But in the Midwest, it's so many abandoned neighborhoods. What they would do on Devil's Night is they burn these abandoned houses down. And people thought it was just like, arson and it was arson, obviously, but people were just doing it on some criminal shit, but they really weren't. What they were doing was there were a lot of crimes being committed in those houses. there was a lot of rapes and drug use and stuff like that. So there were people actually going around burning them down. Like, well, if they're not there, then it is what it is. Because the problem, not the problem, but the challenge in Detroit is you could drive blocks. Like, that block, what Chef just did, how he just walked that whole neighborhood.
Yes.
You could do that for 10 minutes in Detroit and never see a person, but see houses just like that. But just nobody lives there because you'll be underwater. It would make no sense to buy it and live there because you'd be living there by yourself, and that's just not safe.
Hey, not safe. So but they're holding it for a whole nother time period, another generation.
Yeah.
Just like Harlem. Harlem was a hold so it wasn't by accident that the drugs flew into Harlem. It wasn't by accident. It was purposeful. Why? Because it's part of Manhattan, right? You have a Fifth Avenue address, a Park Avenue address, right? Madison Avenue address, right? In Harlem. And so when the lights came on, the property value increased, and those people living like 5 or 6 in a house apartment in Manhattan could now come to a Harlem and expand, right? And so it became an investment corridor. So we know what to do. It's just that we have to get control over our elected officials.
No, we just got to sweep, Reggie. All we got to do is sweep and loan sugar, right?
Well, no, we have to do. Unfortunately, we need a plan.
No, our grandmother. No, brother Reggie. No, we got to sweep. We got to listen to what our grandmother told us, and we gotta do it all ourselves because there's nothing that we can't do, without ourselves, Reggie. Don't try to talk about policy, bro. You'll get killed for it.
So hold on. So in Harlem, y'all didn't elect your own city councilmen and aldermen.
I don't know.
And stuff like that. So I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out, like, what happened where y'all was just not in control no more. Like y'all ain't have nothing to do with what the fuck happened in y'all fucking Harlem no more.
Okay. Well, okay. So there were families. There was like the Keith Wright family, right? Virginia Fields. That's the funny thing is when I first in the 80s, I worked with on Virginia Fields candidacy. I signed petitions and stuff like that. But what happened was that there was a bigger plan, a city plan, and so our elected officials could not. It was overwhelming. You got Harlem was just overwhelming with drugs, right? And so it was even difficult for them. But it was the community that didn't have a reason to pull together, and there was a lot of churches and things like that, but there was no group organization, no plan. And so and then it was overwhelming because of the external forces of drugs, right? The drug trade was treacherous in Harlem, right? So so it was just a no-fly zone really for a while, except for the 125th Street, 116th Street, 135th Street, right? Those major corridors, you didn't live there for the most part, but you were safe, right? Inside the blocks, 118th Street, 117th Street, 134th Street, those places were, and then there was the projects. They were treacherous, grant projects and stuff like that, right? It was just dangerous, right? So what happened is it wasn't enough people who wanted to give up their time to do civic duty, right? And community duty right? Leaving it up to other people, right? And so the most resilient communities are communities where the people themselves go and do civic activities, right? And then they can become models, and then they're spread. So and then when the property value shot up, people had to leave, so they went to Queens, Bronx, back to Brooklyn, and things like that. Um, and so, but Harlem is like, Black Wall Street, a corridor. Yes, we had elected officials. Yes, we had city council people, right? But we didn't have enough civic. We didn't have an army of community people that was resilient enough. We had block, if you go, on Harlem Day and stuff like that, you see block associations. That was the best that we could do, but we had no real leadership. Leadership was fragmented with churches and church leaders and things like that. We didn't have real political leadership. And those who did it, they want to get paid for their services. They don't want to get free. They don't want to do it for free. They want to get pizzade, right? So they joined these parties so that they can get paid. But that's not a problem with just we can see it in our communities when we want to look at it. But the problem is with white communities too, right? In Manhattan, in New York, right? The problem is all over. It's what does the humanity or people or humans living in this, I know we work hard, right? But we have to survive. We have to give up our time for civic community duties. And so unfortunately, I didn't know this until I joined the Department of Black Studies at City College and worked for them. And then that becomes interesting because you learn these type of things and you meet them. So I've met almost every political person in Harlem. I knew Reverend Calvin Budds personally, Keith Wright personally, all of them. I know them. Perkins, they know me, right? Because I've done civil, and I didn't even live in Harlem. But I know them all because of the functions. But what I found out is that sometimes our leadership, or what we call Black leadership, they about their own agenda, and we don't have any control over them. They're protected by the people who they who they give services to, and you can't criticize them.
Yo, Brother Rich, may I interject just for a moment?
Yeah, peace.
Yo,
What's going on?
when are y'all gonna talk about and attack him and call him a coon and talk about systemic this and that for mentioning civic duty? Because every time I do it, that's the reaction. Immediately you start talking about this systemic thing, all of this other stuff, you start calling me coon and all of that type of thing. But Reggie just sit here and expose about that for over 5 minutes and none of say nothing. So why is not consistent? Because I always speak about civic duty.
Hey, Stu Peace, call him a coon real quick. I guess he misses you.
Get it out the way.
Yeah, just go ahead and get it out the way, because none of us have ever called you coon, brother. But just let Stu Peace call you a coon, so you'll be all right.
No. You talk about the systemic when I start talking about.
But none of us called you a coon, though.
Yeah, no, that was the shot at Stu Peace.
Yeah, that was Stu Peace.
But still, you already know the rest page though wasn't a shot at Stu. The systemic wasn't a shot at Stu Peace. Are you that? You are the master of the systemic.
I don't bring up civics in here anymore because nobody wants to hear it. They just want to hear I voted. They think that that's their civic duty.
But I say civic is more than voting. It goes to just attitude in our community, giving, thriving out of infrastructure, caretaking in our infrastructure. It's not just political involvement. It's care for your community, whether you're poor or not. I've always been making an argument.
We got to just listen to our grandmothers and loan out sugar. that'll solve the whole thing.
Yeah, we see that's the thing about it is we have systems and structures. We have to relearn. We have to relearn them, and it's funny in places like City College in New York, except for the Black Studies Department, they don't teach this in our universities, in our local universities. They don't teach these things. They teach technology and medical and things like that. They don't teach civics, right? And the funny thing is we have tens of thousands of educated uh, uh, with degree young black folks, but they can't get jobs in this. So they haven't figured out that they can create their own jobs, and some of them are civic jobs, not necessarily entrepreneurial jobs, right? And then we have to expand. We have to force our cities to create more municipal jobs, not just stupid ticketing, sanitation, and police. Our cities have to involve themselves in industry, but they pay off our elected officials to stop that, right? And so it's a war, and it's almost unwinnable because our people's mindset is horrible. Like I go on I mean, I haven't been on social media for a while. I haven't even done a show. I'm so upset with our population that they want to deal with entertainment and don't want to deal with practical solutions, right? And believe it or not, failure is extremely lucrative, right? Look, our education system is a failure, but it's extremely lucrative because every year they go to the same people to buy $1 billion worth of books that don't work, right? Yeah. So failure is extremely lucrative. That's the other part of it. Failure, success is not lucrative. If my school is doing well, a school is doing well, guess what? We're not going to get right awarded money because we're doing good. But the failing schools will get money and continue to fail. Right? And most of you people don't know it. You people are you got me all wrong, right? Like when I talk about the Black City Plan, well, most of you people don't know my ex-wife ran for mayor of the city of New York, and my ex-wife ran for the city of New York. I mean, a mayor of the city of New York, and of course I helped her get on the ballot, right? I went out there and petitioned for weeks, right? So that she can get the ballot. Now, what happened was the uh the institutional, the black institutional people in New York, the so-called stakeholders, the NAACP, the fraternities and sororities, they didn't allow her to participate in many of the debates. That's why you don't know her, right? It was black people. They were sharecroppers to Cuomo and to Adams, right? It were black people were sharecroppers, and still Cuomo is still running, right? Adams just dropped out of the race, right? Because they made a deal that Cuomo is the best candidate. And these are black people, right? They gave them the time in their churches and their institutions for Cuomo to be present. And so my ex-wife, right? She
That's your fault, Reggie. Reggie, you should have gone to church. You should have gone to church, Reggie. How are you going to run as a black politician?
Gigs up in New York, Reggie.
No, they were the ones who blocked her. She went to Abyssinian Baptist Church. They gave.
Go to church. You're a known atheist. You should have gone. You should have given your life to Christ.
No. My whole thing is I'm a different type of person. Because I saw what they did to her. So those skirt wearing, high heel wearing church people, I'm just waiting for them to come into my sphere, right? When they're not in their church. Because what they did to her was they let Adrian Adams speak for 20 minutes. They let Cuomo speak for 30 minutes, and they gave my ex-wife 90 seconds, and then said, "Let the church play say amen," and played the music. So, and these were how can I say? These are gatekeepers. Our black churches have become sharecroppers. Not in everywhere, but in New York, it becomes sharecroppers to the establishment so that they can get proposals and projects through the city government, and so they've already made deals.
But
So
you want to fight from the outside. You
You
can't fight
become
from
a
the
member of the church.
You have to
You
become
should
a
have been a
member of
member of
the
the
church.
church.
Yeah, you should have been Deacon Reggie at Marbury. And you know that too.
Oh
You
no,
needed
no,
to get
because
the deacon.
that's a deacon in one church.
Yeah, but
See,
then
churches
you
don't like
network with
churches.
other churches. Then you network
Churches
with
are
other
not
churches.
unified. Churches are not unified. They don't like other churches.
Yeah. But you in New York should have been a deacon by now. Get your political up. The black church don't work with the black politics don't work without the black church.
That's the funny thing is the black church has been a problem in New York for the last 20 years. Churches are now selling their churches in New York for real estate. There's big fights. So the black church in New York has become sharecroppers.
Yeah, but you know that from a long time. Look at Brother Brad. Brother Brad's going into politics, you know. He's a good member of the black church. His grandmother's a good member.
Look,
Brother Brad's going into politics, and I know that you have to be a member of the black church. You want to reinvent the wheel.
Okay, but watch this. Mandami don't go to no damn black church. Mandami beat out.
He's a socialist.
Huh? Say what?
Van Damme is a socialist.
Yeah. But you know who voted for him? You know who voted for him? Well, he blocks of his constituents, and it wasn't because he was socialist. It wasn't because he was socialist. It's just because the black church and it was sharecropping, and they got so divided, and Mandami beat the shit out of them. And it's not so the black church power in New York, particularly Harlem, is no New York City, the boroughs is embarrassing. They have left. They have lost control. They're nothing, right? Mandami is on his way to win, and he's not a constituent of a major population in New York City. And it's not
So
because
what's
he's
the
a
problem?
socialist.
So what's the problem?
It's just the right place at the right time. I know that. But your wife couldn't win without the black church. Are you well known in New York?
We went to the black churches. She became a Christian. She became a Christian a long time ago.
But you should have too.
You say
You have
me?
always been you have been in the political sphere for years, Reggie. You know all of the judges, you know the congressmen, you have meet them.
Yeah, I know them all.
And you never joined the church? No, man, you're wrong.
No,
You're wrong.
because I'm not their flock. I'm critical. I'm gonna tell them about themselves, which I do. And so
That's why
I don't have a problem. So I wait for them to come out in the community. Come out in the community, walk down 125th Street or somewhere where I'm at, right? And I'm gonna whisper in your ear, right? That's what Dr. Khalid Muhammad and others taught us. Leave the safety of your deacons and all of that. Walk out in the community, but they don't, because they don't live in the communities. They don't walk down.
All right. Yo, brother Reggie. Before we keep going around in our circle, want to ask a question to our panel. Maybe switch the conversation a little different. Earlier we talked about hip hop and culture and the effect on black people, right? If white youth buy hip hop so much, have they become more violent because of listening to hip hop?
Yes, they have.
Or does it just affect black people?
No, they have. That's the funny thing is the news don't reflect what's happening in their communities. They have come. They're the ones who's wearing hoods, right? They're the ones who's drinking 40s and smoking weed, right? They are doing they're the ones who consume and help the drug dealers in the black populations. Yes, they have become it. The wording has affected all of America.
Anybody else? I want everybody to respond before me, because
And I wasn't going
you were
around in
questioning, of
circles.
course.
I'm sorry if you thought I was going around in circles. I'm talking about civics.
No, I
I'm
mean
talking
you and
about-
Stupid. I keep going around. I just try to just ask a different question. Does anybody else have an opinion on that question?
Reggie here to admit that we need the black church. We have always said we need the black church.
I'm trying to get off the church, man. Buckler.
Reggie know that we need the black church. But Reggie will die before he said
Black
we need the
churches
black
in New York are failing. Name a successful black church in New York. They're failing.
I'm telling you, Reggie will die before he admit that black people need the black church. He
No, they
will
don't.
die. You know? What we need to get, you need them to get politically elected.
We just need a church to bury people. Most of the time, you can't even afford a church. You can't afford a church wedding these days. I just went to a church wedding. Yeah. Look, you're going out.
No, Reg. I'm tired of the come on, man, with the church argument. Because really, another argument I asked about the hip hop. If everybody say hip hop is equally destructive to black youth, it must be equally destructive to anyone that listens to it. There must be some type of percentage rating for that. But that statistics never drawn out. It's almost like we're more susceptible to the violence in hip hop than other people that listen to it. Like they can listen to it as an art, but somehow we can't. We want to emulate.
It's not the black community that supports people like Jay-Z and stuff like that. It's when you have these Rock Nation conference, Rock Nation, whatever they call it, Rock Nation concerts, right? What's it? It's white people, right? Now black rappers can't even fill up stadiums no more, right? Because white people don't want to go. Black people can't afford $200 seats, right? They can't unless you I mean the last concert I went to was
Stupid, I see you played a little bit of the beta. You was playing a little bit of the beta the other day. Huh?
But you don't let me in. I tried to get back in, but you're not letting me in.
Oh no.
I'm gonna go and I enjoyed the conversation today.
I need you to start going to church for your political agenda. You need to start going to church. It's important to give voice to the voiceless. The black church is important.
No, you don't. You listen. You go to the church and you listen to some damn preacher who don't know about Christianity. So be myself. Be myself. They're gonna throw me out the church because I'm gonna say you lie. You lie. You damn lie. Right?
Wednesday night in church, a professional men meeting where many of the professional men in the church have Bible study. You go to that meeting.
They're wearing skirts and high heels.
You liaison with those men. It's normally 6 or 8 of them. You liaison with those men in your network.
Look, the Masons, the Masonic organizations, right? They are still strong and influential, right? The fraternities and sororities, even though they got some.
Most Masons I know go to church. So
no, but they are. Watch this. What I'm saying is they have a structure and they go into churches for their own spiritual fulfillment, but they organize outside of the church.
Come, Reggie.
Are you a member of the craft? You work craft? You have me, son?
No, I'm not.
I'm not a Mason. I'm not a Mason. Reggie's not into anything that is have any semblance of church or Christianity.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm a black nationalist. I'm a black nationalist. And falsely called a Pan-Africanist, but I'm a black nationalist.
They never know that about Reggie. Reggie not going to the church. And then no circumstances they're going to the church. And they need the church. With the black city flag. Imagine imagine if you had 8 or 9 professional men who networking for a city flag.
The church has betrayed us. The church don't believe in a heaven. The church don't believe in heaven. They just preach it to get donations. They don't believe in heaven.
Listen, you need to network with the church. If you did, you with the amount of people you know in New York.
I network, but here's the thing is, I network with everybody. I just don't gotta go into their damn church, right? To be a member of the flock. I don't have to, right? But look, I'm listen, Stupi's, you about my age.
You network with the Masons? You network with the Masons? You network with the Masons?
The Masons don't network. Masons, they don't network like that either.
Oh, I know. Some of my teachers was Masons. Dr. Joseph Benjo Cannon was a Mason. He was a Mason. You didn't know that?
Yeah, but the Masons don't network like that.
Dr. Small is a Mason. You didn't know that?
Reggie don't want to join any Mason organization. If you know anything about Reggie, you're not interested in the Mason.
I teach Masons. When they want to listen to me, I teach them. Right? Right. So I teach them. So I don't how can I say, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, sometimes through their because they don't, so most of the time they don't know what they're talking about, but they have a strong institution, but they have their tradition. But as far as knowledge, no, man, come on. A master mason or a head of a lodge can be a janitor. They don't have to have structured education. It could be a janitor.
Let me tell you something with Reggie. Reggie at his age not following anybody. So because he is no longer a follower, and don't want to be in the church, and don't want to be in the Mason, and don't want to be in the army, and don't want to be in the cadet. Nobody not supposed to say shit to him really.
Oh, I would have joined your services if I didn't go to college. That's not true.
No, at this age in life, you might would have joined then, but you're not taking orders from anybody. You don't realize that you're not in anymore.
The thing is, I took orders in the Black nationalist community, and I took orders from academics. Right? What I found out is that those groups suffer the same things as every other group: ego, pussy, they suffer notoriety. They suffer the same human things as other people. They just code it differently, like they're doing it for the people, right? But so most of the how can I say, the academics who are in Black studies, right? Like they really don't want to talk to me. I mean, you selling a $4,000 trip to Africa? Like you can kiss my ass. You can anybody that's doing that, you could kiss my black ass, because I'm gonna tell you something. Because when I went to Africa in '86 with Dr. John Henry Clark, nobody was going to West Africa. So now everybody, West African. No, they're doing it for money. They have no intention of understanding the culture. And you know what? I'm gonna say this. Yo, F them. For all these goddamn people who have taken trips to Africa, right? Which one of these people has written any scholastic book on Africa? I'm not talking about the scholars. I'm talking about all these bitch ass, right, travel people who take people to Africa based on their emotions or wanting to go home. What effing book have they written?
Reggie was the first one who called out Jabari. And Jabari's first interview with Senator, Reggie called him a spiritualist. I remember that.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
the issue is not my
brother.
Please,
you're wrong, man. You're wrong. It's not making him personal.
Reggie was the first person to call out Jabari.
Answer me this question. Which of these bitch ass so-called experts who go back to Africa so many times. Which one of them got a book on where they went? Only one who, Dr. Ben.
Yeah, Reggie, I've been trying to save you, man, by steering the conversation some other place. You understand, stupid, with throw you, man, and try and lead you down a crush hole. Don't take the bait, man.
I'm not leading them down. I know, I met Reggie one time. Reggie don't even know what I look at, but I met Reggie one time. I don't know, 21st year, and I've heard Reggie through the years. Reggie Reggie is a rebel under the quiet, you know. I might not agree on a lot of things. But Reggie like to rebel against the status quo. And if it's bullshit, Reggie will incite violence them to verbally or let's put it this way. Scholastic violence against you. Right? That's what Reggie would do.
I agree, and I agree, and I don't care. I don't care where it flies. If I am incorrect, you show me that I'm incorrect. So when it comes to Africa and Black studies and things like that, right? Look, I'm like this. Okay, so where's your book? Where's your plan? Right? Otherwise, you're just selling shit, right? It's a hustle.
Well, you know, say me call you Castle Hill Range. Me call you Castle Hill Range because I think Broad Range is too soft. You have to make people remember you're from Castle Hill. Understand Castle Hill Range.
That's right. I lived in Castle Hill, and how can I say? I learned some things about. About the criminal thinking. One thing I find out is that even though they're criminal, they have sometimes better rules than have in our so-called professional bourgeois selves. Right? You can't violate certain things and just get away with it. Here, you can sell bullshit all day and nobody holds you accountable because you got friends, because you got right? So you gotta hush down. But you know, I learned some things about. So you answer me the question. All these people is giving these freaking sucker ass trips to Africa, right? Where their books? On the places. Where are the books?
They're traditionalists, Reggie. They are traditionalists. They believe in oral transmission of information.
The grifters.
They are traditionalists. They're going back to the 4 hearing who rely significantly
so now you trolling me.
On oral transmission. No, that was a troll thing for me. But seriously, Reggie, you know that. You have been in the community too long, and you have seen grifters come and go, and you can spot them from a mile coming. You can spot them from a mile coming. And when they enter a room and begin to suck all the oxygen out of the room, I know that as somebody who takes this thing seriously, it affects you. It affects you.
No, it affects me because y'all, not you people on this channel, but community chooses people. So they chose people. They chose, like, for example, Frances Cress Wilson, who you critique. They chose her. Umar Johnson. I remember he was a clean-cut dude, right? I remember when they chose him. I know how they chose him. And I know who chose him, right? But they chose him because he spoke well and because he can make them money. They didn't give a damn what he was saying. What he was saying drew people and they can make money from him. And so our organizations that do they chose him because he was a money maker. And he started believing the shit that he was saying. I remember when he became Prince of Pan-Africanism. And if anybody knows me, I remember, and he knows, I don't have a bad relationship with Umar Johnson, but I have an accountable relationship with Umar Johnson, right? I have an accountability relationship with Umar Johnson, right? Just stay in your lane. Don't come by me with any of this Prince of Pan-African bullshit, right? You know, don't do that. Just when you was trying to motivate people to get to school, look, I didn't have a problem with that. I did have a problem with it not working, but don't come to me like you're an intellectual on this, right? Don't do that. And I talk to these people, and I have interactions with them, and sometimes they're not positive. Like, you're not going to be talking to me, and you were born in the goddamn 80s and the 90s about the history of our people, right? Yeah, I'm not going to be talking to a young pharaoh about the history of our people. I'm not going to be doing that. You've never seen me do that, right? Now, some of the other people like Polite, well, Polite was interested in working with me, understanding what I know for his purposes, right? And so I didn't have a problem because he sincerely, when I was dealing with him, right, interested in knowing, right? He appreciated my ideas and my work. He went to the museums with me. He did all of that. But most of you people, not all of you, but most of you people, you're not interested in going to a museum. You're interested in hearing me in a goddamn on YouTube, right? You don't really want to know. You don't really want to see it for yourself. I was talking to somebody in the chat the other day, and I was talking about my work, and somebody brought, yeah, and Jabari said that.
I'm interested in going to the museum.
Yo, Brother Reg, have you ever thought about Brother Reg, have you ever thought about doing curating or pursuing a career rather than just doing tours?
Well, listen, I've worked with trying to do this for a number of years, right? I could be lucrative if I did it for white folks, right? But I tried to interact with our people, right? And so this is a career. I'm 60 years old. Respectfully, there's really no career for a 60-year-old person, but I could make more money. But I know if I taught people that didn't look like us, they are more interested and they pay more than our own people.
Listen, the fundamental problem I had with you in the beginning, Reggie, is this.
Huh? Say what?
The first time I met you, I said, this brother bright. That's the first thing I said. I said, this brother bright. But then when I'm starting to watch Silent in the early years, I expected more pushback from you, from the peers, from everybody who was there. Because everybody who was on the channel, and you went to interview a couple of people, you didn't push back as you should. Coming from your knowledge base, knowing that this person is a bullshit.
On everybody. I was part of. I was part of the explosion of debate. I pushed back on all of them. It says like all of them, Brother Larry, everybody, all the Moors, right? All the Muslims. I pushed back on everybody. What do you want one man to do? And I'm not popular. They didn't want me to be popular, right? No, but I did. I have a record.
You were the one that Senator called when he wanted knowledge-based information. Right. You were the person who he called when he wanted knowledge-based information. And you were around people, the peers, and the peers were the same bullshit. And you would not push back. You might have debates. It's true, Reggie, I'm not lying on you. I give you a rules. That's like knowledge-based, you're smart. Right? I said the resistance that I have is that you didn't push back as you should. Look, Sheffield couldn't go on.
You don't understand those streets.
The first time Sheffield he was pushing back.
You don't understand. First of all, I did have some personal relationships with people. But second, these streets are violent, right? So you have to mitigate what you want to say and try to hold off on the violence. I didn't come to this community to fight, but I've had confrontations. So it's different when you're out there and you can have a confrontation, right? So pushing back for some of these people, that's their career.
You know too much people in New York for any of those country bunkings to touch you.
No, listen. Everybody out in the street.
New York for those country bunkings to touch you.
Hey,
Only
listen.
person.
Everybody out in these streets, everybody out there, everybody on these streets could get sucker punched. And I've been around where there has been lots of violence, right? In the streets on consciousness. So you have to know, you got to know, as the pills say, the ledge. You got to know what ledge you on, right? You got to know, because you're not safe. I'm never safe when I go out there messing with people's religions, ever. Right? Shit, I got hit by a stick by ISUPK, right? A staff, right? You gotta know the. And I'm not talking about
that will make you popular. The history you in the streets. You can find.
Yeah, you should have called the police on them, Red. You should have called the blood clot police on them. Constables should have come and lock up them.
Shit. Hell no.
Start that side. They massage you with the almighty stick. Lord will speak.
Shit. ISUPK, they hit me with a stick, right? In Harlem. Right now, what it was, this wasn't under the Commanding General Yohana, right? Because, you know, I know him. He went to school with me, right? We know each other from the neighborhood, same neighborhood, right? Castle Hill, Sex, Money, and Murder. We know each other. It was under his above leadership, right? I was walking down the street. They was walking down the street. They wanted me to move off the sidewalk. I tried to go to the edge. That wasn't enough. I got hit with a stick. Sucker. But so these streets ain't safe. So why do I gotta be your example in these streets? Right? I'm not trying to get beat up.
You kept it OG, Reg. You didn't go snitch on them. You kept it OG. You kept on the street. That's what it is, man.
But I'm saying,
you should have done this and call the police on you.
Listen, I will call. I have no problem calling the police. However, it was 40 of them. What am I gonna call the police on? It was their training day, I guess. They was taking over Harlem, and they wanted to take over the sidewalks, and I just didn't want to go in the street, so I got hit. That's acceptable. What am I going to do? Right? Look at my confrontations. I've had terrible conversations out there, right? You seen what AOC, Hashar, and all of them, right? Like, I'm not going to be your poster boy, get my teeth knocked out. Shit, teeth are expensive. Right? I had confrontations with SETI. Young Pharaoh, I ignored, right? Because he's just a young kid, right? Shoot, I've had confrontations within the so-called conscious community, right?
So you're supposed to run to the local bodega, run in there and say a group of 40 men wearing purple just hit me with a stick. Call the police now. Call them now. If DNA is on the stick. My DNA is there on one of those Moses sticks.
No. I just took it because I could have went down the street. I didn't go in the street like everybody else. I tried to walk through them. And I got hit with a stick. So I could have went. Listen. I could have mitigated it. I just didn't want to walk in the street. I'm like these people with these funny costumes coming down the street. I'm Brother Reggie. I ain't getting in the goddamn street for them. I got hit with a stick.
So wait, you mean it like it was Jim Crow style that expected you to step off the sidewalk?
You said what?
Like a white person is Jim Crow, back in the day, Jim Crow, when a white person was coming down the street, a black man had to step off the sidewalk. That's what they expected you to do.
Oh yeah, they was training. They show force. They were army. So this is under the Area and Abba Bivin days. This is not under General Yohana. This was ISU PK full force, right? This wasn't the how can I say the friendly Captain Tazariak, right? No, it wasn't them. They were soldiers when this happened. And I think Daniela, all of them was in these camps, right? It's not for
So that's proper civic duty to take over the whole sidewalk and not allow the old lady and anybody to pass and beat people with sticks.
Yeah, well, they'll show of force. Listen, it's the same thing with a lot of organizations, the Nation of Islam. When they're coming down the street, they expect you to move. But they are a little bit more civilized. Nation of Islam is a little bit more civilized. At least they smile.
No, you're supposed to get your civic duty is you're supposed to get the permit for parading. You're not just supposed to get a big group and bully the street.
Well,
that's not civic duty, man.
Well, they're not.
I just wanted to come off of mute and say appreciate you, brother Reggie. You know, and a lot of folks do in this community. So,
well, I appreciate
just hearing this stuff. You know, I sometimes think that you think you're not appreciated, but a lot of us appreciate you, man.
I don't question brother Reggie's logic. And I don't question him now. Those two things I don't question. I might push back on some of it, but I don't question whether I'm a knowledgeable dude. But he has interacted with the more
brother Reggie, man.
He has interacted with more He has interacted with more Suda thinkers than any of us can imagine. No, that's what I would like him to talk about one day, all the Suda that he's interacting with from the beginning of coming into conscious community. Because he knows all of them by name and he has spoken to them. And what I would like to know, when you hear somebody come with obvious bullshit, what goes through your mind as an intellectual man? When you hear somebody come with obvious bullshit, because that is how you can help other young people to avoid these cultish thinking. What to do when you encounter somebody who stands strong on a narrative that is untrue and is bullshit.
Well, you see me because, like, for example, people think I'm a traitor talking against the Comedics, right? And I'm like, first of all, I know the field. I've read the text. I've been there. I've been there when some of these people were in their diapers. So I went there in '87. I went there with the top scholars, right? And they didn't teach us to worship, or they taught us to respect it, right? But they didn't teach us that a successful plan was to worship what they call Kemetic deities and stuff like that, right? And so I'm like, if I hear something that I think is not beneficial, I'm gonna say it's not beneficial. If you're wrong, I'm not gonna bite my tongue. And we've been arguing about this thing whether Kemet or black people or call themselves black. It's an intellectual conversation. So there I just exercise my intellectual abilities to say, so what, they called themselves black, right? So what, they called themselves black, but and I can show you why, but what's that mean?
Right.
They black like us, same circumstances, they just revered the color black. They created a black realm. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has anything to do with you. But if you can get some values out of it, fine. But you can get the values out of it without a religion. You ain't gotta talk to spirits and stuff like that. Especially when these people, most of these people can't read any of the language. They don't go to museums with me because I'll make them read. I'll stand up there and say, okay, fine. Here's this stela. What does it say? Just tell me nobody's perfect, but tell me what, man, I knew some of these people when they couldn't even show you what Hotep was in the glyph, or Kemet itself in the glyphs. Or
and that's what I'm talking about, Rich. So, Rich, that's what I'm talking about. It sounds like a joke. right? But when you say broad rage and then your demeanor, right? Especially in the internet world and the platform you was there upon, right? It gave off a friendly presence and people took advantage of that. That's why me always, when I found out you were some Casa Hill, that's why me say, no man, I Casa Hill rage. That's why rage is willing to turn up and you don't understand. But in the platform you was on, you kind of got, you got the nice guy type of vibe going on, you understand? But the platform wasn't fit for that. So people kind of relegated the information because of that perspective of Uno. But I don't think that that's you, because I've always seen you fight and defeat. You understand?
Well, I appreciate that, but sometimes you get older, right? And I've gotten older over the years, right? So, but I tell you, if it's bullshit, I tell you,
Yeah.
intellectually dress you down. Like what's all this teaching of all of this stuff, and you can't put it in your practical lives, and you need a goddamn costume. Like, like, like who you fooling? Because I
Amongst
got
all the
education.
bullshit,
Say
amongst
what?
all the bullshit, I would, amongst all the bullshit, to give Brother Reggie some further props. I would let I would let my brother listen to. I mean, I would let my sons listen to Brother Reggie. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I have 4 sons, so I would steer them towards uh, more of the reality than and that's why I was saying I appreciate Brother Reggie because he's
I
had to.
appreciate you. And if
Yeah,
you're ever in
yeah.
New York,
And I don't just say it. I've donated. Like I got you. You own my cash app, brother.
well,
Reggie's
I
like so.
appreciate, but if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
ever
yeah,
in
yeah.
New York and you're ever with any of your sons or all of them, right? Let's go to the museum, right? While I have the time, while I have the time, I take families
Right.
and I take people to the museums and I show them. But I not only show them ancient Egyptian culture, I show them West African culture, and sometimes, very rarely, sometimes I show them Oriental culture, right? I'm not the type of person who people. I'm not in no cult. I'm not in no cult, and and I'm not accountable. I'm accountable to myself and my people. I'm not accountable to any particular person, right? It may be in the past, maybe in the past. Dr. Jeffries, Dr. Leonard Jeffries was my elder, my mentor, and I would listen more to what he has to say, and then Dr. John Henry Clark and Dr. Ben, right? Outside of that, uh, I argue with people who you don't think I argue with, right? I'm not trying to hear that, especially when I know you can't read the culture. You ain't got no publications, right? I'm not arguing. You know, just stay in your lane. And the best thing you can do is
And
just avoid me and don't put me on a panel with yourself because then it would be competition. I'm not
well,
listening
as
to.
a fellow academic, one thing I can respect about Reggie is that despite all the trolling and the clowning and all the them some there, is if you whether you agree with Reggie or not, you have to defeat him academic. You have to be sound academically and go into the act because he's gonna present that. So if he's talking about the law, you gotta go into your concept of criminal procedure or civil procedure to understand because he's gonna talk from that perspective. So I really love that you add that to the conversation because I'm that way, but I get misinterpreted the same way Uno do. So I appreciate that about you because you do have to come academic.
I
We are
appreciate
deal with race.
I know law. I don't like law. I really hate law because I see what law does. But if you look me up, my name is Reginald A. Mabry, Mabry. You can go to Google Scholar and and look up my name, Reginald A. Mabry. You will find in federal law on a case, there's 141 citations to a case that I did, right? You can find that out. October 1st, 2025, just last week, I helped a person I was working with. I helped him defeat summary judgment, right? Just last week, right? He defeated summary judgment against his defamation case. I love defamation cases, right? So I'm waiting for some of these knuckleheads to defame me, right? So I can drag them into a New York court. But they won't do it. They're smart enough not to do it. But maybe some person don't believe in U.S. law, right? They don't believe in the law. Okay, I'll still drag you in a car and take your house and your car. I'll take your wife's car. So they know better. That's why they just talk to me. They talk about me in the little innuendos. Call me out. Call me out and say something about me that I can that's defamatory, right? Say, but they won't. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna avoid me and they're gonna avoid the topic because it's best for them to do that when it comes to history and culture. And in my Black City plan, well, I wrote a plan, made it for free, right? It's out there, right? It's workable. It's better than all these other people selling you books. I did it for free, right? And I had the background to do it. So when I come on this show, because you have a diverse group of people, and it's entertaining at times. People talking about grandmas and stuff like that, right? It's entertainment. So I'd rather sometimes do this than do a whole show. But maybe I'll do a show tonight.
No, what I'm trying to explain, Reg, and I want people for this to come across, you understand, is that even if people disagree with you, it's from academic. You understand? We can troll you and do all of that. That's part of the internet. We understand that, right? But if we have you make a point, right? You have to go academic to deal with the point. It's not no pseudo point. You understand me? I say, and I appreciate of that because it forces people to really use the reasoning. You understand? Then we can get back to the trolling and all of them joke things. You understand? Right. But still around certain things you make, whether I agree or not, I still have to come at it academically or historically or with some type of factual information. You understand? Because as much as you was part of that pseudo world, you avoid. I don't think it come from a pseudo perspective.
Hell no. No. And so when I hear stupid stuff like the Tom who is a white man, stupid. You're stupid. You can't back that up or the Hyksos or the proto Hebrews. But I hear all this stuff all the time. Hyksos are the proto Hebrews, right? I even think Yara did a good job. Hyksos is a title, right? Foreign rulers. It's not one group of people. You're stupid, right? Or evolution. How can I say evolution is not a theory? Stupid. Like, okay, what school
But
did you
I thought you
graduate?
said that the Sashu was in Egypt and they were the proto Hebrews. I thought I heard you say that. What's up, Rich?
The Yahweh, the Shashu, right?
I mean, I might have misheard you. I might be like,
No, the Yahweh
I might be doing
Shashu,
something.
the
I remember you
Yahweh
saying that.
Shashu were around was in Edom. They did come into Egypt to attack Egypt, right? They did worship Yahweh, right? Or a proto, but they were not the Hyksos.
Okay.
So I would tell you that there's nothing in the ancient Egyptian culture where a group of people worship El or Yahweh. And so if they didn't worship El or Yahweh, right? They worship Baal, they worship Anas, they worship Astarte. So if they didn't worship El or Yahweh, then that defeats the whole Exodus story because Moses did not worship El or Yahweh, right? His people did not worship El or Yahweh. Maybe he might have, when he went to Midian, he might have began to worship Yahweh, but I don't believe he was a character anyway. I don't think he was real. But the fact of the matter is, if El and Yahweh is not worshipped in Egypt, So how do you get an exodus?
I got you. So
And
you're
Hebrew,
basically saying that those people would have never
academic.
been, they would never been captured or held
they
captive
never
in Egypt.
worship El or Yahweh. So they were not, though. It's a story. It's a story told over and over again until it was written. No, you can't show me Moses, even though they talk about Judah and they talk about Israel. Well, guess what? Ain't none of those groups of people mentioning Moses. Where's Moses? When is Moses first mentioned? He's ahead of the Exodus, right? How come he's not known until the 4th century BC? Look it up. So they didn't even know Moses to the 4th century BC? So they can miss y'all can miss me with that when it comes to history. That's simple. No Moses, no El, no Yahweh. Hey, you're not gonna talk to me about, right? You're not gonna talk about, and then misappropriating terms, things like the Tamhu, the Tenahu people. We have writings. They're not white. They're not the white man. They're not necessarily even light skinned. Why? Because we have the Nuriwa study. It says most North Africans were dark to brown. So how are you going to run around telling people that these are the Tamhu? We could be friends, but my friendship is not dependent on information and all the spooky stuff. Like you can go to the museum all day and you can see these artifacts and you can stand in front of them, but they ain't gonna talk back to you. You better look for some writing to see if you know who the person is standing in front of you, but they're not talking back to you. They're not having a conversation with any of these netters or any of these religions. You're not having a conversation with them. It's in your mind. So why don't we get to something that works? But I teach this subject because I think this subject is valuable to show that there's civilizations before the Europeans. Europeans learned from. I'll teach the subject, but you're not going to get me, standing in front of some object and think the object is talking to me, speaking English. Imagine that. An object is speaking to me, but it's an ancient object and it's going to speak to me in English. Get that out of here. So if that's what y'all want to hear in the content community, hey, that's more power to you. But listen, I'm